Okay, good evening, everybody. We're to call our meeting to order. Welcome to our meeting this evening. We'll have a roll call by our city clerk, Kathy Valdez.
The record shall reflect that all members are present.
Okay, if you'll all rise, we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Contreras.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with the Brown Act, I'd like to announce that as a result of convening simultaneous meetings, the members of the Buena Sanitation District will receive compensation of $147.75 for the district meeting pursuant to Buena Sanitation District Ordinance 2006-1. So I'd like to remind everyone that the Vista Municipal Code requires members of the public to observe order and decorum at the meeting and to conduct themselves in a courteous manner. The ordinance was adopted to allow for public input and to facilitate city business without disruption of the meeting. Applause is appropriate for items listed under the presentation portion of the agenda only. To speak on an item on the agenda, please fill out a speaker slip with the number of the item you want to speak on and give it to the clerk's secretary staff. Speaker slips are available just outside the council chambers, and speakers will have 3 minutes to address the city council. With that, we'll go to the approval of the agenda by our city manager, Patrick Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to remind everyone that tonight's public hearing is time certain, so that'll take place at 6 o'clock. And we do have an additional item to be considered for the city council, and I'll turn this over to the city attorney for comment.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We have prepared a motion for your consideration to add item C17 to this evening's consent calendar. The motion reads as follows: that finding that subsequent to the posting of the agenda, it came to the attention of the governing body that on December 13th, 2021, after the posting of the agenda, the California Department of Public Health, CDPH, announced that it is requiring masks to be worn in all indoor public settings, irrespective of vaccine status, for at least the next 4 weeks, from December 15 through January 15, 2022. Secondly, to find that there is a need for the agency to take immediate action because the circumstances of the existing state of emergency and the most recent state requirements and advice make it possible that before the next regularly scheduled meeting of the governing bodies or one of their subsidiary bodies, it may no longer be possible to conduct in-person meetings safely or in accordance with state and local requirements. And therefore, to add the matter of a joint resolution of the City Council of the Chartered City of Vista, the Buena Sanitation District, and the Community Development Commission of the City of Vista, authorizing remote teleconference meetings of the City Council and governing boards as agenda item C17 on the consent calendar as authorized by the Brown Act. As noted, we do not know precisely where this mask mandate will take us. And so this proposed resolution gives the city the option, but certainly not the obligation, to move to a televised meeting if necessary because of changing circumstances in the health of the community. So I believe you all have the motion before you. If you would care to do so, we would be appropriate to have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Green, Deputy Mayor Green.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Mayor, I apologize. I just was going to ask the question, so you actually answered it for me. This does require a separate motion. So with that said, I would move that we accept our attorney's recommendation to allow satellite meetings in the event we need to convene at a satellite.
Councilmember Contreras.
I second the motion.
Okay, so please cast your votes. The motion passes unanimously. Okay, so that takes us to our presentations. Oh no, we need our city attorney to bring us out of our closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the City Council met in closed session to discuss the item listed as CS1 on this evening's consent calendar, closed session calendar, and no action was taken that is required to be reported at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have three presentations this evening. Our first presentation is by Assemblymember Tasha Borner Horvath. So welcome to our council meeting this evening.
Thank you, everybody. I think this is the first time I've actually been in your chambers, so it's wonderful as your assembly member to be here. Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. As you said, my name is Tasha Berner Horvath, and I proudly represent Vista, Carlsbad, Encinitas, and Camp Pendleton, Oceanside, in the State Assembly. And most of you know about my journey in public service, started around health and safety and sustainability. And so when I got to the Assembly, it was so important to have North County have a voice, have a seat at the table. And I've made sure that I spend lots of time with each of you, certainly with the city manager, talking about what Vista needs to thrive. And so, that's what I've been doing. I spent a lot of effort doing it. In addition to legislation, we also have budget items. And so that's why I'm so proud to be here tonight. Because I was able to secure for Vista projects $9.1 million in projects, and they're going to make a difference in the city of Vista. And they're going to, sometimes we think that people are very different, but we have always more in common that we have that divide us. And all these projects really help the city of Vista increase their sustainability, and increase our public safety. And so, the first one is the Bringle Terrace well with $600,000. That is home to many popular attractions in Vista, including the Moonlight Amphitheater, the Alta Vista Botanical Gardens. I myself actually love going to the Moonlight to watch productions with my kids. And this well will only continue to attract both residents and visitors by enhancing the irrigation system at the park, amplifying the beauty of the landscape, especially as we see increasing droughts due to climate crisis. As I mentioned earlier, I got into elected office to make our community a better place for our kids to live and for future generations to come. That means investing in public safety. The second project I was able to secure funding for is the replacement of the old Taylor Fire Station. With a state contribution of $5 million to this fire station, will be improved and modernized so that our Vista firefighters are properly equipped to respond to any emergency within the reach of the thousands of Vista families that they serve on a daily basis and serve in the region. Additionally, in a time when we need to be better about consciously and intentionally slowing down the impacts of climate change and thinking about future generations, I was thrilled to hear about the city's ambition to install solar carport structures here at the Vista Civic Center. This ambition will become a reality using $3.5 million in state funds. Not only will the solar panels help continue to contribute to the state goals of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but it will undoubtedly enhance the quality of life for Vista residents. I believe city staff has already connected with their respective agencies administering the funds. I think you've passed a resolution on one. There's already connection on the other. The other one needs more information. You know how it is. But I believe when we work together, we will accomplish so much. And so it's been such an honor to get this money for you, to work with you. You have a great city manager. Each one of you are, invested in this city. And with that, I'd like to invite down the mayor, the council, and the city manager to accept the checks today with some fancy big checks.
Oh,
I love fancy big checks. So come on down. One together. How's your time? You okay in time? So we're going to do. Mayor can hold the check. Only three. So should we stand in front so we don't have a desk in front of us? Is that good?
Thanks today because I heard rain. Thank you.
The next one. We want to switch the order. We're going to keep the same order. Good? Pat? So this is, yeah, you can get creative. This is 5 million for the fire station. Jazz hands. Okay.
You should have filled all 3 of them. It looks like it's
And then 3.5 for the solar project. Okay, so keep that one. Okay. You're gonna keep this one.
They're doing one with all of them.
You're gonna do one with all of them.
a lot of money then.
Okay. Oceanside will show us this year. Don't say that out loud. It's coming.
1, 3. Got it? Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really, your collaboration means everything. We couldn't do this without doing it together, you know?
We take these with us.
Take them to the bank. Okay, we all back? Whoop. Where's our city manager go?
He ran out with the checks.
Oh, he went to the bank. Right. Our next presentation will be provided by Andrew Rice, Caltrans Maintenance Program Manager on the Adopt a Highway program. So welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name is Andrew Rice, and
This is
a
C4.
maintenance program manager at Caltrans. And here today to talk about Adopt a Highway program, a brief presentation. Guess that's, here we go. So why am I here? I've been managing this program for about a year, maybe a little about a year and a half. And I really am trying to grow this program. I really see it as a program that can take a bigger step in the mitigation of the trash that we see along Highway 78 corridor that I know you all are very familiar with. So something that maybe Adopt a Highway hasn't done historically. How does this impact you? Obviously, this makes a big difference to your community, just the quality of life within the city of Vista and what you see out there on the 78 corridor. And how can you guys help? Well, by Caltrans forming these relationships with cities like the city of Vista, I'm hoping to leverage relationships that you have with the local community and local businesses to create more adoptions. So you probably are all pretty familiar with the program, or certainly have seen our signs out there on the highway. But just real quick about the program, we have basically 2 types of adoptions. You have like a mainline adoption that would be typically a 2-mile segment in the eastbound or westbound direction of Highway 78. And then we're also now adopting ramps. You'll see those signs out on the ramps. So we're adopting the interchanges, again, it's like the eastbound ramps or the westbound ramps. And then you can divide our adoptions into either volunteers or to sponsorships. And so volunteers are those groups or organizations or individuals that volunteer their time. It's no cost to them, but it's their time that they put in. And this picture is the Back Fence Society here in the city of Vista, who's a great group that is cleaning the westbound ramps at Melrose. The sponsorship side is where we have businesses basically contract with one of our pre-approved contractors that actually does the cleaning. And there's a cost to that they pay the contractor, but I really promote this because we get consistent cleanings every month. Volunteers are wonderful, but sometimes that can wane over time. And so that's something that I'm really trying to push for in this program as well. And of course, safety is our top priority. As you all know, picking up trash out there on the highway at cars going by you at 70 miles an hour is a little bit different than, say, cleaning up in your local park. So safety is our top priority. But this next slide, oh no, this one is telling us about our new or relatively new online mapping. So I just wanted to share that with you. If you go to Google Caltrans District 11 San Diego and see the link to Adopt a Highway, we now have an interactive map showing all the adoptions, you know, those that are available to adopt, those that are already adopted, those that aren't adoptable due to safety concerns. So that's a nice tool for everyone to utilize. And this next slide is actually probably the most exciting slide about this presentation. Is there's the Clean California Initiative that was enacted in July. It was $1.1 billion towards cleaning up California. There's a $30 million piece of that is going to Adopt a Highway. So it's $10 million a year. And what that is turning into is basically a stipend or incentive payments for groups to complete their cleanings. So if a group actually adopts one of those mainline adoptions, they can earn $250 a month to complete those cleanings. That's just the one direction. If they happen to adopt, say, both eastbound and westbound, then it could be $500 a month. Ramps are a little bit less. They would be $125 a month. So this is kind of a game changer with respect to Adopt a Highway. I mean, the Clean California Initiative is a 3-year program, so it ends in June of 2024. But this is obviously creating some nice incentive for groups to get involved. And on the sponsorship side, I often get questions about, well, how much does it cost for a business to contract for the cleanings? And you know, that's a hard question to answer because it can vary depending on the site, and they like to keep those costs close to the vest. But honestly, it can run $300, something around that. So when you get a $250 rebate from the state, it's a pretty cheap way to get a lot of exposure for these companies to thousands and thousands of people that travel the corridor every day. So it's really kind of an exciting program for Adopt a Highway. And then my final slide is something I'm trying to enact, but have been challenged with COVID, but what I call one-day permits. And this is where I might work with the city of Vista. And if you have relationships with some groups or organizations within the city that may not be able to commit to a regular adoption where they're cleaning every month, but they could do something maybe a couple times a year, we could do a one-day type of permit or adoption, and where Caltrans would come in and do some more extensive traffic control. We could close down ramps, might even close down a lane. So it makes it nice and safe. We provide the safety equipment, but you guys provide the labor. Maybe it's a group. We did this with the city of El Cajon and it was quite successful. So if that's of interest to the city of Vista, I'm more than happy to take that on. So, but again, the COVID thing has been a little bit of the challenge in that regard. So, but that was really it. I just kind of give you a quick snapshot of our program. So this is my contact information here at Caltrans Adopt a Highway program here in District 11. And then if you have any questions. So.
Thank you for that. I don't see any questions here. So, but thank you for your presentation, and hopefully some people will see out there that want to adopt a highway, adopt an area of the highway or an exit. And we do have some that need it. So
yes, we do. We
yeah.
do.
So thank you. Thanks for bringing that to us.
Okay. Thank you.
We appreciate it. It takes us to our final presentation, which will be provided by Keegan Sheldon, Housing Services Coordinator for the Elder Helps Home Share Program.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, City Council. It's nice to be with you. Again, my name is Keegan, and I'm here to share about Vista Home Share, which is a program, a part of Elder Help of San Diego, a nonprofit that for 48 years has operated under the mission to provide personalized services and information that helps seniors remain independent and live with dignity in their own homes. A little bit about me. While I was in graduate school, I had the opportunity to live in a co-housing community. What is co-housing? It is when people who are not related to each other decide to live together for a shared purpose. And I did that in Durham, North Carolina, where it was very, very cold, even colder than today, if you can believe that. My living arrangement was with 7 other women in an 8-bedroom house, and 2 of those women lived with cognitive disabilities. And together we created an affordable housing opportunity for every member in that home, and we laughed a lot while doing it. Down the road, because this was a 2-block thing, more like home share, a couple in their 60s opened their home to a woman in her 80s who no longer wanted to live alone after her husband passed away. As a result, she got to spend her final days with people she considered friends and pass away in a place she considered her home. So she got to have the opportunity to live well, age well, and die well. And I loved living there. I loved thinking about my home as a place to share life with others. And that sharing allowed us to have a better quality of life. Paying rent there wasn't a transaction, it was a transformation. And knowing that transformation is possible through ElderHelp's Home Share program is what makes me so excited to talk to you all today. So, ElderHelp's Home Share program has been around for nearly 30 years. Much like the initial founding of ElderHelp as a whole, Home Share came as a response to meet the needs of seniors in San Diego. The cost of living was rising so rapidly that seniors on fixed income began to question if they could afford to stay in their home. So, ElderHelp wondered what they could do to help, and that's when Home Share got its start. And Home Share, quite simply, is a roommate matching service that requires each match has at least one person in the match who is over the age of 60, meaning it's open to people of all ages, 18 and over. And occasionally we can take a mom and a young child, but it's rare, but it's an option. So with that being said, we enroll seekers, those looking for housing, and providers, those with a room to share, through a similar process. Both parties are fully vetted, and then we ask them to return 3 references and a health check. We also require that our seekers provide income verification. We interview candidates when we think we can create a potential match. It's a very robust vetting system because we realize that we're working with a vulnerable population. And so once we kind of find a match, we encourage them to do a trial period, and then a match begins. And our application is online. Thank you, COVID. So we're very excited about that. Anyway, and we have different match agreement options. The match can be a rental or service exchange agreement. A rental agreement is purely rent-based, whereas a service exchange means that a seeker provides services to the provider in exchange for either a reduced rent or no rent. Services can include companionship, transportation, nothing hands-on because we're just not set up for that. So we can't have them help with grooming or anything like that. But it does let the rent go down significantly lower. So we have folks that are paying maybe $300 a month because they're offering these services, which is a steal in San Diego, as you know. So anyway, our longest match is 16 years. Our average match length is 6 years. And so it can take a while to get into our program and to find a match, but we like to remind people that while we aren't a rapid housing option, we are very much a long-term solution. And contract guidelines require that we match people in specific areas. So right now, providers have to live in San Diego, Poway, and Vista. And seekers can live anywhere in San Diego County. So now we've gotten through all of that. It's great to know our process, but if you're like me, you want to know what that process produces. In other words, where's the transformation? Oh, I went too fast. This is very sensitive. Wow. How do I go back? Oh, here we go. Hey, all right. 89% of our clients feel their quality of life is better. 74% of our clients feel safer at home. And 94% of our clients believe they're more likely to remain independent. And I love these statistics because they show the benefit of having a match connection in our program goes beyond the financial security that both parties receive. The security of their lives is improved. They know better days are ahead. They know they are safe. They know they will be able to stay independent longer. They can age with dignity every second of every day, regardless of their numerical age. And we at ElderHelp believe that's the way it's meant to be for all of us, no matter our numerical age. Now, one of the things I hear often from potential providers is that they just want someone there in the home with them. That sentiment lands differently coming out of what I hope is the worst of the pandemic. We were given an unusual opportunity 2 years ago to take to our homes, to isolate, to spend time by ourselves, to do city council meetings online. And we spent a lot of time within the same walls alone. And I imagine that for many of us, that practice was rather difficult. And we are fortunate that for many of us, that season of life is nearing its end. But for many seniors in our communities, that practice and that way of life was present long before the pandemic and will continue to be present unless there's a solution that invites another person into their home in an affordable and life-giving way. So when I sit at the outreach table in the Gloria McLennan Center and watch a senior's face light up at the prospect of someone being there to help them with meals, to watch reruns of favorite shows, to do the yard work, I know this program is worthwhile, and I know it makes a difference. At our core, we are an in-person program, and now that we can instate that element of our work more and more, I'm excited for what is ahead. Currently, we have completed 100+ outreach contacts since we began our work a year ago. These instances of outreach include attending networking events for the Alliance for Regional Solutions and Vista and San Marcos Chamber of Commerce, flyers in Starbucks, Fraser Farms, the Vista School District, and faith communities, calls to country clubs and Goodwill of San Diego, because I just try to be creative with who I can call, and presentations at NORCAN, Women's Club of Vista, and the Foundation for Senior Wellbeing's Coffee and Connection, and obviously tonight. Tomorrow, I'll be participating in a virtual resource fair for NORCAN. I could go on, and every Tuesday I sit at this Gloria McLennan Senior Center to do outreach and to get to know the folks in your community. To put it simply, I'm really excited about our program, and if you have any opportunities for outreach, if you know anybody in one of your service clubs or your faith communities that I can talk to, I would love to be connected with them. And finally, many people are surprised to know that Home Share is housed within an organization with a variety of other programs for seniors. Those services are listed here. And while our transportation, Are You OK calls and care coordination program are not available in Vista at this time, we are pleased to offer a fully online caregiver support program and information and referral services for seniors in the Vista community. And I am happy to share about those programs over email or phone call. So thank you for listening, and that is my presentation. And I'm just in time for your 6 o'clock meeting.
Thank you. I think Councilmember Franklin has a question for you, maybe.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, I think on behalf of the entire council, that the City of Vista is pleased to financially support the work you're doing with the recurring financial gift, and as part of our homelessness master plan. And I personally think it's a really great idea. And I love the idea of seniors being able to connect with others and have that dignity and relationship and have that option. So thanks for the good work you're doing.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. We're very excited to be here. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. Thanks for coming. That takes us to our public hearing. We have a time certain public. No, we don't. We need to wait 1 minute. Oh, it's 5:58.
Actually, Mayor, if I may, we do have an interpreter available if anybody needs interpretation. If you would go to the back of the room.
One more minute. Okay.
I was going to second your motion.
It's interesting how slow 1 minute goes, isn't it, when you're waiting for it? Still have 1 minute. There, it flipped. Okay. Now we can call it. Okay, so there's one public hearing this evening. This is a public hearing to consider City Council redistricting. Our City Attorney, Daryl Piper, is going to introduce the item.
Thank you, Mayor. This evening, we have the first in a series of public hearings, public meetings relating to redistricting. I'm pleased to welcome to the chamber Kay Vinson, who is a retired city clerk for many decades and consults in San Diego County with numerous cities. She's with the National Demographics Corporation, which is the entity that the city contracts with for these election services. And without further ado, I'd like to present Kay Vinson.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, staff, and members of the community. National Demographics Corporation is happy to be here this evening to assist Vista and to kick off the redistricting process. NDC has 40 years' experience serving approximately 400 jurisdictions with their districting and redistricting needs, including Vista 4 years ago with formation of their districts. This is a map of the current districts and includes the small, fairly recent annexation. As background, in June 2017, the City Council voted to change the way council members are elected from at-large to by-district elections due to a threat and the expense of litigation. At that time, the districts were based on the 2010 census as required. By district means the voters in each individual district vote for a representative from that district. The first by-district elections were held for districts 1 and 4 and a directly elected mayor in 2018, so those seats are up again in 2022. Districts 2 and 3 selected their representatives in 2020 and will do so again in 2024. We're here tonight because following the federal decennial census, the city is required to adopt new district boundaries substantially equal in population. The California Fair Maps Act, effective January 2020, establishes procedures and criteria to accomplish this process for redistricting. This process has been delayed because the census data, usually received in March or April, was not received until mid-August. That was due to the pandemic. Then the state released the prisoner-adjusted population in late September. That involves zeroing out the prison population and reassigning the prisoners back to their last known addresses. Consequently, the timeline for redistricting for all agencies has been compressed. So this evening, we begin the process with the first of 4 required hearings and meetings. In an effort to reach out to the community, the second meeting has been scheduled as a community workshop at 2:00 p.m. on Saturday, January 15th at the Vista Academy of Visual and Performing Arts at 600 North Santa Fe Avenue. 2 meetings are required to be held prior to the release of the draft maps, with the goal of education and to solicit input on communities or neighborhoods of interest. After the first meetings, 2 additional hearings with draft maps are required to discuss and revise maps. Those 2 hearings are scheduled for your regular city council meetings on February 8th and March 8th. And March 8th is when it's anticipated the new district map will be adopted. The deadline to accomplish all of this for the next 10 years is April 17th. There are both federal and state laws that govern how redistricting is accomplished. The left column shows the federal laws. Each district is required to be equal in population within a 10% deviation, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. The Federal Voting Rights Act prohibits minority vote dilution of a protected class based on race or minority language, so there is equal opportunity to nominate and elect candidates of your choice. We also want to make sure we avoid cracking, dividing a district so that they don't have as much influence, or the opposite side of the coin where you pack a district and take away potential votes from another area. Also, there can be no racial gerrymandering or gerrymandering. Race is a factor, but it cannot be the predominant factor. So we looked at other factors such as communities and neighborhoods. The right column reflects state law, and that's came about from the Fair Maps Act. In addition to the process that we discussed on the previous slides with the requirement for 4 hearings, the ranked criteria must be followed in this order of priority. First, each district has to be geographically contiguous, so it means it all has to touch in the same neighborhood. Second, neighborhoods and communities of interest are to be considered, including factors such as natural boundaries, nearby parks or schools, or cultural traditions. Input is being sought this evening on neighborhoods and communities of interest. And we'll go into that more on a later slide. The third criteria is to have easily identifiable boundaries, such as natural or artificial boundaries. The artificial can be a major arterial like you have with South Santa Fe. It's a border now for you, and they need to be compact. You cannot skip an area to get to another area or group of people. Another prohibition relates to not favoring or discriminating against a political party. This slide shows the demographic summary of existing districts based on the 2020 census. The total population of the city of Vista is 98,714 people. So each of the 4 districts must contain about 24,679 people. As you can see, the total deviation between the least populated district and the most populated district is 12.4, actually 12.39%. And that's in District 3, the most populated is 3.84, and District 4 is a negative 8.56. Or 5.5, I guess. And that is more than the 10% deviation allowed. So the districts will need to be adjusted somewhat. The districts are based on total population, all residents, not just voters. And if you go to that second bar of total population, it shows a Hispanic, Latino majority in District 1 and pluralities in Districts 2 and 3. And throughout this presentation, you'll see that the terms Hispanic and Latino are used interchangeably. District 4 has a majority of white population. Then if you drop down to the bar of citizen voting age population, that being citizens and those 18 years of age or older, the majorities are unchanged in Districts 1 and 4, but the pluralities change. The citizen voting age population is derived from the American Community Survey data, previously known as the long form of the census, and is taken into consideration to comply with both the federal and state Voting Rights Act. This map shows the Latino CVAP, or the citizen voting age population demographics. The areas in green, yellow, and pink show the concentration of Latinos above 50%, whereas lavender and blue show less than 50% concentration. Then there are some socio-economic demographic slides. This one shows the percentage of renters. Again, the areas in green, yellow, and pink show concentrations over 50%, and lavender and blue is less than 50%. This slide shows household income over $75,000 a year with the same color scale. The city is providing 3 various mapping tools for residents to provide input. There are different tools for different purposes and technical skill. There's a review draft map that will be on the city's website, a paper map kit or easy to draw neighborhood map, also the same or similar map but with an Excel portion of it so that you don't have to do the math yourself. The Excel will do it to you. And all maps are welcome, even if someone draws it on a cocktail napkin and submits it to the city. The review map on the city's website will look like this, and it may be used to review, analyze, and compare maps, but not to create them. It includes galleries like topography, similar to Google Maps, streets, and there's also a layer section on the right-hand side where you can show population by census block and council districts. So if you hover over, let's say, that census block 6, the population will come up. Then there's the paper map kit or simple map drawing tool. It looks kind of like a complicated coloring book page. And that's exactly what you can do. Use 4 different colors and color in your districts where you think they should be. The numbers in those census blocks are the population. So this where it comes into, you have to add it up. You can also just draw your neighborhood or community of interest and submit that. Then this one is the paper map tool with the Excel portion of it. And instead of the census numbers being in the block, they're over in the Excel table. So if it shows 63 IDs, if you wanted to put the first 17, let's say, in District 1 on that yellow column, you would input number 1 all the way down for each ID number that you want to be in District 1. Likewise for District 2, 3, and 4. And then the Excel does the math for you. All maps submitted will be professionally produced by NDC, particularly those that are population balanced and contiguous, along with the demographic summary like you see above, and that's there for Vista. This evening, including those watching from home if the weather's kept people away, your input is desired to identify your neighborhoods and communities. So the first question is, what is your neighborhood? And the second question is, what are its geographic boundaries? Again, some examples of physical features include neighborhood dividing lines such as a highway, major road, river, hills, areas around a park or school. You have that like with Bringle Terrace Park now. Other neighborhood landmarks, maybe like the Village, where it appears you have 3 districts that share that area. And then when we want to go beyond neighborhoods even and talk about communities of interest, and under the Elections Code, community of interest has a specific definition with regard or in the context of districting and redistricting. A community of interest is a population that shares common social or economic interests that should be included within a single district for purposes of its effective and fair representation. Communities of interest may not include relationships with political parties or candidates or incumbents. So we have questions with regard to the communities of interest. What defines your neighborhood? Is it a geographic area plus other factors, those shared social or economic interests, maybe something that's impacted by a governmental agency, or tell us your own community story. You may have a story where everybody came together because of a crisis, and that kind of created a community of interest. And the second question is, would this community benefit from being included within a single district for purposes of its effective and fair representation? That's what the law requires. Or would it benefit more from having multiple representatives? So this evening, the public hearing, when it's open and discussion, you might want to ask questions about your neighborhood and its boundaries. What are other notable areas in the city and what are its boundaries? With a discussion focusing on neighborhoods and communities of interest. So that concludes the presentation. Other than having a contact information for Kathy Valdez, your city clerk, you may reach her at 760-643-5320 or email her at kvaldez@ci.vista.ca.us. And there's information on the city's website now, and more will be added under City Council and redistricting. And you can also mail your comments or maps, maybe those napkin maps, to Kathy here at 200 Civic Center Drive in Vista. So are there any questions?
Before we do questions, do you want to do speakers? Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you so much. So at the beginning of your presentation, you noted that we were required to have 4 meetings. One of them was a workshop and 3 of them are council meetings. Is there a reason why we only have 1 workshop? And is it possible to make it 2 workshops and 2 council meetings? Or is it mandated to only have 1 workshop? I just feel like the council meetings aren't very interactive with our community. And since we're making such a big decision that's going to impact our community for the next 10 years, I don't like the idea of only having 1 interactive workshop. So is that something that we can change, or is that something we're stuck with?
I believe that I can let Daryl answer that.
We are required to have 3 public hearings. You could have any number of workshops. So the tentative schedule is tonight's public hearing, which is really a launch of this whole process, to be followed by the workshop on the weekend to get public input. The result of that will be the production of some draft maps, which would then come back to the next public hearing for consideration. If the council wants to create more than 1 workshop, you can certainly see if you can find the time to do that.
And not that I'm trying to create more than 1 workshop, but these are just 2 initial hearings and then 2 draft map hearings. So it seems like they're giving the same weight to the workshop that they are to the public hearing as far as the council meeting goes. Is that not correct?
Yes, the
Workshops are hearings.
just as much.
So
as
that's what
public
I'm
hearing.
trying to say is, like, I'd like to have 1 workshop with the initial hearing and then 1 workshop with the draft maps. I don't think both draft maps hearings should be council meetings. I think one should be a workshop and one. So before we finalize these hearings, I wanted to speak with my council to say, hey, are you supportive of one of these meetings being a workshop instead of just making them both council meetings? Because personally, I don't like that. I think that one should be a council and one should be a workshop for each stage of these hearings. And that's my opinion. I see Councilman Contreras has something to say as well.
Councilmember Contreras.
I want to appreciate, I appreciate and I want to thank Deputy Mayor Green for bringing up the issue of only having 1 workshop. And I wholeheartedly agree with his comments. You know, it is difficult to have an interactive session during a council meeting, as that is not the intention of a council meeting. So I would be in favor of expanding the amount of workshops. And I think that, you know, having a workshop to create the maps and then having a workshop to discuss the created maps is a great way to involve the community.
Okay, so our attorney, I think, has
Yes,
something to
well,
say.
we can certainly accommodate that, but we will have to, I believe, come back at your meeting in January with prospective dates, because we have to find locations that are available and locations and times that would be available. So we will bring that back at your first meeting in January to further refine the process. As we say, it has to be done by April, and so we do have some flexibility.
Do the meetings have to be in different areas, or could they be like at the Morris Vance Room, or do they have to always be out in different areas?
They can be anywhere the council chooses to place them. There's no requirement that
Okay.
they be geographically diverse. We chose a diverse location for the initial workshop, and subsequent meeting could be at Morris Vance. We have done that before.
Okay. Or in the Shadowridge area. Okay.
If I may, Mayor,
Who's talking?
you can add as many workshops as you'd like, and Daryl can interpret this, but it says the council may, this is the Fair Maps Act statute, it says the council may have staff or consultant conduct 1 or more of the public workshops in lieu of holding 1 of the public hearings. And that's what is being accomplished with that January 15th date. So unless Daryl looks at it some more, I think you would be safer by adding another workshop or a 5th meeting, so to speak.
Yes, that is, I believe what we were talking about was adding not attempting to take over any other public hearings.
Okay, so with that, do you want to hear the speakers now? Okay. Armin Cardian, followed by Jaime Romo. Or is it Jamie?
Good evening, Mayor Ritter, members of the council, and city staff. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Armin Curdy, and I'm a Vista resident. I'm going to make brief comments about redistricting. Over the last few months, the California Redistricting Commission, in their work going around the state, has made some radical and wholesale changes to their maps, specifically the Assembly, Senate, and congressional maps. One of the most egregious impacts of that was at one point the cities of Vista, Oceanside, and Carlsbad were all split 3 different ways. Hopefully, we're going to get that fixed. Essentially, the Citizens Commission seems to have taken great liberties with the terms community of interest. And I'm not so sure they have been sufficiently receptive to feedback. Obviously, redistricting is important. We do need redistricting. Populations grow, populations shrink, people move. And it does need to happen, but it should not be made an excuse for wholesale changes. So my brief point and my comments to this, when you look at the city of Vista, Vista also has its communities of interest. We have Shadow Ridge, we have the business park, we have the area parks that are concentrated around West Vista Way. We have the rural, semi-rural areas of residents who butt up against the the unincorporated areas of the county. Just that when we look at these maps and when we start drawing them, that we're judicious and that we look at this from a thoughtful, data-driven manner, and that we don't necessarily need to make radical changes, but we can make adjustments, and we can get through this in a successful and a thoughtful manner at the end for all of our Vista residents. Thank you, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Jaime Romo?
Good evening. It's my first meeting. I've been busy, but I'm particularly interested in this. I'm curious about whether this group is using the same process as was used in Arizona.
Hello?
I'm not sure we can answer that question, so why don't you proceed?
So in the context is that this group in Arizona has been challenged many times for disfavoring the Latinx population for essentially gerrymandering. And so I really favor the process to open up for more community input as often as possible in various ways and make sure that people, maybe even doubling the promotion of the discussions to do less, I think invites just lack of participation. So that's the bigger concern I have. I'm wondering about the implications as well of with the increased population, does that impact the amount of council members? And if so, how would that be taken up? So these things to consider, but definitely favor more public engagement in different languages. I don't know how much outreach there has been, but certainly to the Latinx community is very important. So, thank you.
Thank you. That's our last speaker. So this is gonna come back to us a lot after the first of the year. So we have that closed public hearing, and we don't need a vote on this, do we, today?
No, there's no action that the council needs to take.
Okay.
Simply close the public hearing.
Okay. So we close the public hearing, and we will go on to, we'll go back actually to our consent calendar, which is recommendations on the following consent calendar will be enacted in one motion unless an item is removed from the calendar. Any member of the public can remove an item by submitting a request to speak card to the clerk's secretary, and items removed from the consent calendar will be considered immediately following the adoption of the calendar. We have 16 consent items this evening. And so, oh, yes, 17 with the addition, but that's already passed. So technically we had 17, but one's passed, so now we have 16 to consider. Okay, so I would entertain a motion, or if anybody wants anything pulled off, I have item C4, the public is pulled off. And so I will, Deputy Mayor Green.
I would move that we approve the balance of the consent calendar as presented.
Do Do I have a second for that?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, and seeing no other discussion, please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. Did you push the button again? Oh, okay. Okay, so that takes us to then item C4, which are the amendments to the VCC alcoholic beverage, responsible beverage sales and service. And would you like a staff report for that maybe on it? Or just a speaker? Your speaker? Okay, we'll hear the speaker. Julie Lowen. This has been before us probably other times, and so
Okay, it's okay. So I came in to talk about a different thing, but when I saw something relating to alcohol was on there, having just been put through the process, I thought, good opportunity to kind of talk with the city about what's necessary in the downtown for people like me to feel super comfortable about investing our dollars there. So our project in Carlsbad is approved. I'm super excited. We're breaking ground and going to build a new center. Super duper excited that the Department of Education and Social Services is funding a huge part of that project. So that's a really exciting thing. But that leaves Children's Paradise just rolling ahead, and the Lowens kind of sitting here going, okay, what are we going to do next? So when you're thinking about alcohol and alcohol consumption and kind of what's happening in the downtown, I know that Vista needs a restaurant, kind of a hub. Another one I think would be great, a place for people to hang out, a place that families can be. And I think it would be appropriate to start engaging the community in the downtown surrounding the issue of alcohol and alcohol consumption, because that's going to be a major profitability point for a restaurant. Food service, as most of you know, is fairly break even. Maybe you make a little bit, but I was talking with Bobby who ran Sunrise, and he's doing something else. He went, I can just do things that are so much more profitable. And Sunrise was such a wonderful place. So I would like to see the city council kind of put some work together on all of these various ordinances. I know we would like to have a private cigar club, but alcohol is prohibited unless people bring in their own. So there's not any profitability margin in the downtown or way to make city taxes with a private cigar club. So just some different things like that. Maybe we could work together as a team to start identifying some things that could happen in that downtown area, and maybe loosen up or tighten up depending on what's necessary for it to become a thriving community where people can party, have a good time, but also, and drink responsibly, but also a way that the vendors in the downtown area and the property owners can kind of make it all work. So that's my comment. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Are there any other questions here? No questions, I would consider a motion for this. Deputy Mayor,
I move that we approve this item as presented.
do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. That takes us to our discussion items. We have 6 discussion items this evening. First item is proposed amendments to VMC 5.24, establishments offering live entertainment. So our city clerk, Kathy Valdez, is going to give our staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. This item was first brought before council at the November 9th meeting, at which time staff received direction to bring the item back with proposed amendments to the code to allow for outdoor and semi-outdoor entertainment in the historic downtown and Paseo Santa Fe planning districts. The amendments proposed would allow for outdoor and semi-outdoor amplified entertainment when expressly authorized in the conditions of the live entertainment permit, limited to ground floor areas and approved or permitted, I should say, patios. The historic downtown planning district is roughly the area between Vista Village Drive, South Citrus Avenue, Eucalyptus Avenue, and South Santa Fe. The district is bordered by residential neighborhoods on the north and south, Vista Magnet Middle School on the east, and Vista Village on the west. The Paseo Santa Fe Planning District is along South Santa Fe Avenue from Eucalyptus Avenue to about Paula Vista or Civic Center Drive, depending on the side of the street. The entire district is bordered by residential on both sides, with homes on the east sitting on the hill above the businesses and those on the west about 350 feet away from businesses. Based on feedback provided at the last meeting, the proposed days and times are Monday through Thursday between the hours of 5 to 9, Friday between the hours of 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., Saturday between the hours of noon and 10 p.m., and Sunday between the hours of noon and 9 p.m. The maximum 1-hour average sound level for outdoor and semi-outdoor entertainment is 75 dBA. This is typically compared to the sound level of a vacuum cleaner. And the maximum 1-hour average sound level for indoor entertainment is 60 dBA. This is typically compared to the sound level of an air conditioner. Sound level measurements will be taken at the property line in accordance with the requirements found in Vista Municipal Code 8.32, noise control, which incorporates the San Diego County Code relating to the control of noise. This provides an objective, repeatable, and enforceable standard for which to measure sound level. The city will use a progressive enforcement policy with regard to noise complaints regarding live entertainment. These enforcement steps would be occurred during the duration of an active permit. So the first complaint, the business would be notified and basically put on notice. The second complaint, if a business cannot disprove the validity of the complaint, they must ensure that future live entertainment does not exceed allowable limits and use the sound level meter to monitor sound and provide measurements to city upon request. A third complaint, if the business, again, cannot disprove the validity of the complaint, the business would be required to ensure future sound levels do not exceed the maximum limits using a noise control plan created by a sound industry professional and provide a copy to the city of that noise control plan and satisfactory documentation that sound levels associated with the business have not exceeded the maximum level allowed. A fourth complaint, again, if the business cannot disprove the validity of the complaint, the business who refuses to monitor or correct the sound level, the live entertainment permit, shall be immediately suspended for a period of 3 months from the date of the fourth complaint. After serving the full 3 months, if there is a fifth complaint, again, that can't be disproved, the suspension would be for a period of 6 months. That full 6 months would have to be served, and if there were a sixth complaint, it would be for a period of 12 months. Again, if it could not be disproved. For sound level meters, there are many available readily for purchase. The options vary as well as prices, but a good meter that meets the city's requirements, including the capability to log and store sound level measurements and provide those measurements in a common readable format, can be purchased for about $500. Staff is also recommending increasing the duration of the live entertainment permits from 1 year to 2 years. This allows for the implementation of the progressive enforcement policy, as well as benefits those who have not had any complaints. Prior to this meeting, staff sent letters to business and residents in the historic downtown and Paseo Santa Fe planning districts, as well as those within 500 feet, to inform them of the proposed changes and the opportunity to provide public comment on the item. As noted in the staff report, residents of the new high-density multifamily developments in the area were not notified individually because most of their rental agreements include a clause that states the renter understands the area is designated as an entertainment zone and accepts that there will be some noise from entertainment in the area. However, a notice was sent to the owner or manager of each of the developments. Staff also disseminated information through social media, Nextdoor, and the city's website and electronic newsletter, as well as presented to the Vista Chamber of Commerce's Government Affairs Committee. That completes my report. We have a sound consultant, Jeremy Loudon of LDN Consulting, Inc., available to answer any questions you may have regarding sound level measurements and meters, and I'm available to answer any other questions you may have. Thank you.
Do you have questions now, or I do have speakers? Speakers first? Okay, we'll go with the speakers first. Okay, so we'll start with Will Bertner, and he's going to be followed by Skip Coomber.
Hello, all. My name is Will Bertner. I'm a husband and a father of two. I'm also a 12-year citizen of Vista. I've spent 25 years in food and beverage, working in upscale restaurants and resorts, managing all aspects of each location's operations. I've also been booking music for 15 years in the local area, and now I run Cooper Wines. I've spent 10 years on Fox 5 as their wine guy, they call me. I've done over 600 segments with them about wine, beer, spirits, and restaurants, promoting hundreds of venues throughout San Diego County. I definitely understand Vista is amongst the most exciting areas in the county, and I want to help continue the excitement and the growth of our city. Some people accidentally discover Vista because of rent prices or whatever it might be. My wife and I moved here on purpose and have many neighbors we interact with in our neighborhood that made the move here on purpose as well. We truly love the city. I made it clear to Skip Coomber that this is the best area for us to open our second winery tasting room because of the success of our location in Oceanside. I found, designed, and operate the current location in Oceanside, and I'm very confident that this concept will fit in with our community here in Vista. Our concept is simple. We serve wine and we provide live music. The reason I'm here to speak, I'm here to speak about the importance of live music. Live music supports local artists and mom and pop businesses alike. It brings people together in a way that few things can. We at Coomber Wines book local award-winning artists, Grammy Award winners and San Diego Music Award winners. We have a lot of very talented artists in our city that are chomping at the bit to bring their neighborhoods here in Vista out to see them perform. Trust me, I book a lot of these people, and a lot of them live in Oceanside and Vista. Like, I booked in downtown San Diego, I booked everywhere, and a lot of them live around here. The issue seems to be sound levels, as you speak of. I usually speak of sound levels in regards to cars, which is 60 to 70 decibels, or trucks, which is 70 to 80 decibels. Sound levels can easily be regulated, as they are in many different areas around the country, and shouldn't be a deterrent to all the great things that live music brings to a community. I believe the current amendment would support everything I speak of. I hope that we can work through any concerns that any other citizens might have, because of the importance of live music in a thriving city is immeasurable. Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you. Skip Coomber, followed by Steve Thomas.
Madam Mayor, City Council, staff, guests, I'm really pleased to be here. I'm very excited about Vista. I won't talk long because Will did a better job than I can do, but my wife and I were convinced by Will that this was the place to come for our second tasting room. We close at 9 p.m. Last call's at 9. We don't send drunks out on the road. We bring to you affluent guests, and we cater to the locals. I think your locals, your residents, your constituents are going to really enjoy coming to our tasting room. My only comment about the ordinance with respect to the measuring of the decibels is I'm wondering if you might want to consider measuring it at the person's house, the residence, as opposed to at our or any business's perimeter. Because I think really, if you're trying to protect the interests of the residents, which of course you should and you will, that might be a more appropriate way to measure that. But overall, I support this completely. I appreciate it, and we're very excited. We got our final permit from the city yesterday, so we're starting our construction immediately. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Okay, Steve Thomas, followed by Julie Lowen.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, staff, hello again. I was here last time, and I appreciate you listening and responding. And what you sent us will work. We're happy with it. In looking at the package, I saw that there were a few people in the community who were opposed. I'll remind you, I brought you 479 signatures of people, our customers, who do support the ordinance change. The downtown businesses need it. I think we've made that point very clear. We need live music to build downtown Vista. So I'm hoping tonight you do the greater good for the greater number, approve it, and let's move ahead and have some fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie Lowen, followed by Rachel Beld.
Once again, hello to the council and mayor and everyone. So very much in support of this. I do think that if it's too loud, you're too old. So the decibels would be an issue. I also think that you should add cabaret. I don't think that a business downtown should have to worry if they have guests that are up and dancing. I know we had the Children's Paradise Party over at the Wildwood last night. It was packed out. We did karaoke and dancing all night. We had a ball, and we were talking with John there, and I said, hey, if you guys could set this up, can you imagine how full and how busy that restaurant would be? I know just on our tab alone, from the time we got there at 6 o'clock until around 10 o'clock at night, we generated over $20,000. So it was something that they were really happy to have. I think downtown businesses would do really well. I know that Dave and I have a home in Bastrop, which is right outside of Austin, and we're able to go in and really enjoy the music in Austin. It is everywhere. On 6th Avenue, they have all of the bars. The doors are open on the street. It is loud, and they have 5 to 6 horses with policemen on top, and they literally walk the horses down the middle of the street, which pushes the people into the bars. And it's a raging fun night. You just have a ball. There are houses surrounding it, and they kind of take the attitude of, hey, you know the neighborhood you moved into. You understand that this is a music district. And so creating that music district, I know that I've talked about that Citrus to Santa Fe, Eucalyptus to Vista Village Drive section, and creating that as a public market, a public music area, something where we work together as a team. And instead of it just being individual businesses trying to make a profit, that it's more of a collaborative working to create a fun place for citizens within our community. That's something that I really appreciate about our little community in Bastrop is they consistently work as a community on music festivals. And so we went this summer to many music festivals. On the weekend, they would literally shut down the street, and it would start on Thursday night. Big music going, and it would go all the way through the following Wednesday, so an entire week. And sometimes even through the following weekend, they would be able to get bands and groups in their local, and it's just incredibly fun. And so I would love to see something like that come to Vista. So I super support it. The more lenient you can be and the less no and the more yes. I know that at Children's Paradise, we find a way to tell kids yes, and they do a whole lot more for us because we're constantly telling them yes. So I would love to see that with what's happening down there. As the managing member for the 211 Main Street LLC, which is the ownership of the Opportunity Zone project at the First National Bank building there, I can tell you we're very interested in putting a beautiful restaurant in the downtown. We thought about a rooftop bar, but that with the seismic, we're still going back and forth. So just want you to know that the more lenient you are, the more
time
we'll
is up.
invest.
I'm sorry.
So it's all good. Thanks.
Okay. Rachel Beld.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Rachel Beld, and I'm the President and CEO of the Vista Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to thank Ms. Valdez for joining us at our Government Affairs meeting earlier this month, where we heard from business members and non-members as well regarding this ordinance. And the Vista Chamber of Commerce is in support of the staff recommendation to expand the ordinance to include the outdoor live music. I'm also personally a resident nearby, and I enjoy having a downtown that's vibrant and musical and where I can hear music and enjoy entertainment into the evening. So I'm here tonight wearing 2 hats, one to represent the chamber to let you know the chamber is in full support of this ordinance, and then secondly, as a private resident, to let you know that I also support this as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is our last speaker. So we'll go to Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you to everyone who spoke, and to Kathy Valdez for giving us all this information. I had a couple of questions. Can you help us understand a little bit more about the exemptions hours on holidays and what that might look like? So does that mean on Monday that holds a holiday that someone might be able to play until 10 p.m.? What might that look like?
Yeah, sorry, I don't think I mentioned that in the presentation. We are including the opportunity to allow for a variance on holiday. It would need to be in writing 10 days before the holiday. And it would allow for someone maybe on, 4th of July falls on a Monday, to allow them to have entertainment at, all day long, noon to 10 or something. So it would depend on the case. They'd be looking at an individual basis each time. But yeah, it's to address the issue of holidays that fall during the week for the most part. Maybe extended hours like on New Year's or something like that as well.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And I also wanted to get a little bit more information about the progressive complaint and kind of enforcement implementation. So when it comes to complaint, is that defined by a specific incident or is it a number of calls? So does, for example, if on a Saturday there's 10 neighbors that call with a noise complaint, does that count as one complaint because of an incident of going over that threshold, or does that count as 8?
I'll look at our attorney as I say, yes, it would be one incident because it's for the evening.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And so the intent is if they have a sound meter, they could disprove it by showing the sound meter reading, or maybe they didn't have entertainment that night and they can prove to us they didn't have it. So we do want to verify that is a complaint that needs to be addressed.
Okay. Well, I appreciate all the outreach that staff has done too to let the surrounding neighborhoods know about what's going on. I think that this is a solid update for our municipal code, and it's going to allow a lot more activity and vibrancy downtown. And I want people to have fun. So thank you so much.
Deputy Mayor Green.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, so Mrs. Valdez, first question I have for you was on page 1 here where it said something about limited to ground floors and approved patios. Question is, how would one get their patio approved if it wasn't approved? And is there a cost to have that patio approved from a permitting standpoint?
There is, and John Conley can address that better, but
John,
it does
let's
need
go,
to be permitted.
So we have a number of patios that have been set up for COVID purposes that are temporary patios. And so we're not allowing them in those situations. But if someone wants to get a permanent patio approved, they can come to the planning department. We'll review it and approve it as part of a building permit. That's what we're trying to do. If it can't be done through a building permit, we have a zoning approval process that we can use. It's a little bit more expensive and time consuming, but there are 2 options there depending on what they want to do.
But if they have an existing permanent patio,
good.
From a cost standpoint, it's not a lot of money?
No, if it's an existing permanent patio, it's most
immediately
likely
approved?
already been approved, so there's no issue.
Okay, so any existing permanent patios are already approved for outside music with this particular ordinance? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right. I want to make sure that I understand the enforcement mechanism, because in reading through it, it doesn't sound like all businesses right now have to have a monitoring device. Just by looking at it, the first complaint, you're just notified, hey, somebody complained. The second complaint, it looks like if they can't disprove the validity of them, then we just handily say, hey, make sure you don't let this happen again. And then it looks like on the third time, we don't actually fine them, but we do require that they buy a monitoring device for the fourth complaint. Is that correct?
Actually, at the second complaint,
Okay.
They would need to get a sound meter.
Business must ensure. So the way that they're ensuring future live entertainment doesn't exceed is by buying that sound meter at the second one.
And then
Okay.
at the third, they would need to do a sound management plan by
Okay.
a professional. So they, and Jeremy can maybe talk about that, but they would, help the business identify ways to mitigate the sound, whether it's, moving the speakers a different direction, putting up walls, that sort of thing.
Of course. And then my other question has to do with what Mr. Coomer was speaking of as far as where we measure that sound from. Obviously, the complaints are going to be coming from, I would assume either a neighboring business or a resident, which is not going to be, inside the facility per se. Are these monitoring devices required to be like 10 feet outside the facility or like right outside the door? Or are you having these obviously the decibel level is going to be a lot louder if it's right above the speaker than if it is, outside the facility. So I want to make sure we're fair to our businesses to where the data that they're providing isn't kind of tying their hands or handcuffing them per se within our decibel ordinance. Does that make sense?
Yes. So our noise ordinance does provide some specifics, and again, it incorporates the county code about where it would need to be. It would be on the perimeter of the property
Okay.
line. But actually, I'll ask Jeremy to maybe address that issue in a little bit more detail about what that would really look like.
Okay. And then I also, as long as you're addressing things, it's my understanding this device would be kind of tracking measurements constantly 24 hours a day so that we could go back and say, hey, we got a complaint at 6 o'clock on Thursday. They could actually track, hey, 6 o'clock on Thursday, this was the reading at that time, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So first off, on the property line, the existing city ordinance looks at property line. And so this ordinance, it's best to keep tied with that. So it is around the perimeter. If there's fencing, of course, you don't want to take it right at the fence because there'll be reflective noise. So it has to be off the fence. Okay. So every business is going to be unique. Some will have a lot more distance from the speaker to the property line. Some will have less. So it's more of how hopefully they'll orientate their speakers to help avoid any complaints.
Inaccurate readings.
And of course, as these things move along, they'll kind of get used to, hey, we need to try and do these things to help adjust the noise.
Okay, so a question that I have, I don't know if it's for the city or if it's for you. When that second complaint is filed, will somebody from the city actually go to the business and meet with these business owners and say, hey, we need to put a decibel meter on your property. This is where we recommend that you put it to get the most accurate reading? Or are they going to have to hire like a specialist that's going to have to, I'm just trying to figure out costs for my business owners that are in here and kind of what it's going to take for them.
So it would be up to the business to install it. We could certainly go out, but as far as finding the best place for it, it would require a expert probably to determine that.
But we'll at least provide them with parameters that's like, hey, it needs to be within 10 feet of the structure.
Right. Yeah. Oh, no, we'll definitely provide the
lines.
basic. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it won't be required to because we'll give very specific guidelines.
Right.
Okay, that's all I want to make sure. Thank you for that. So I like the enforcement. The next question is dancing. It seems like we're footloose here in Vista, and I've heard some of our other establishments say, hey, we can't even have 2 or 3 couples get up and dance when there's good music. And I don't know that there is any amendment to dancing in this live entertainment ordinance. I know there's special use permits you have to have when you're dancing and things because apparently dancing it's crazy or whatever. But I'm wondering, since we're going to be having live entertainment, if there's any way to incorporate like, hey, if you have live entertainment and a few people get up and dance, we're not going to send our code people by and write you a ticket for having a couple couples dancing in the thing. And like, how Julie was talking about the karaoke and dancing nights, like what is our policy for that? And how can we allow that easier for our businesses since we're allowing them to have live entertainment now?
So our code does allow for dancing if you apply for a permit, but you do have to have a dance floor or dance area. It doesn't have to be a specific floor, but a designated area that's 10 by 10.
Okay, and is there like a materials so basically anybody and what is the cost of is there a cost for that dance area?
Well, it would be with the type of permit they apply for. So I think it's $25 more than the other permit.
So it's the same regular entertainment permit. So if they have an entertainment permit for live music, they can designate an area in their restaurant where people are allowed to get up and dance as long as it's a 10 by 10 foot area that is clear of obstructions, I would assume, that would make them fall and injure themselves. Okay.
Correct.
Just want to make sure we can dance in Vista with all this music. So, no, I think this is a great ordinance. I like that the enforcement mechanism is there. That way it can assure our residences that we do obviously have an enforcement mechanism, and also that our businesses can kind of track what their decibel levels are to make sure they're complying. So I am 100% in favor of this. Do we need a motion for this, or is this just discussion? Okay, I would move that we implement this change to our ordinance within the city code per staff's recommendation.
Councilmember Contreras.
My first question has to do with the designated area. So I have a question as to where Sinopolis is and the Wave. It doesn't look like this is part of the outdoor live entertainment areas. And I have a question as to, is there a reason that it's not?
We looked at just the art and culture districts, which were the historic downtown and the Paseo Santa Fe area.
Okay. I do have an issue with that because that essentially is like the area C, right, for the bid district. And I believe that if any of our businesses downtown are paying into that bid district, that they should be given the ability to participate in outdoor live entertainment. So I would support the motion on the floor if there was an amendment to that to include this area that is currently not included.
I would accept the amendment.
And are there any questions about what that amendment was?
What you're referring to is kind of the newer Vista Village area.
Correct. Yeah, I would, that to me, when we're talking about historic downtown, I mean, I remember when I was little and I would go with my grandpa to pick up stuff for his nursery, and none of that was there, but it was part of the downtown still, and it continues to be part of the downtown. So I want to make sure that we afford those business owners the ability to partake in outdoor live entertainment. When I think about that area, I think about Lamppost Pizza, I think about Sinopolis proper, and Swami's, whatever the case might be. So
I'm sorry, for clarification, are you just talking about adding the Vista Village area or beyond that? And I don't have the map in front of me of the bid areas, but I just want to make sure that whether it's adding the rest of the bid area, if it's different than that, or just Vista Village.
I personally think that all the bid areas should be part of this. That is a discussion that, I'm willing to have with my colleagues to see if there's reasons, that might not be appropriate. But in my mind, it would be an appropriate thing is for all the businesses within the bid areas to be able to participate in live entertainment, because I think that's important. So that's why I wanted to make sure there's clarification. So with the second of the amendment, is that with it being clarified, Deputy Mayor, is that still a second for that amendment?
Yeah, I'm 100% fine with the bid district. I just want to make sure that we can, is there a way to show the community, I don't know, like a little pointer or something, what the additional spot would be? I have the map in front of me. So if you put the map up there, the outdoor live entertainment, I know just the area, obviously, of the left where the Krikorian, or I'm sorry, Sinopolis, my bad. So this area right here on the left, the upper left area.
Yeah, so in looking at the bid map, and I'm sorry, we don't have it to be able to show, it's actually Zone A that incorporates, the Wave Water Park,
Okay.
East Sinopolis area, and it goes all the way into the historic downtown and crosses Santa Fe for Broadway, Main, and
Yes.
all the way to Citrus.
I like that. Yeah, I'm 100% in support of that amendment to the motion, and it's been moved and seconded.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate just clarifying the geographic area that this will pertain to. I mean, I honestly would like to have this everywhere, but probably, I don't, we'll start here, right, and see how it goes. As far as the maximum DBA levels, I will continue to maintain my position that I think it's too low. But I'm willing to accept it. I do support staff's recommendation of increasing the duration of the live entertainment permits from 1 year to 2 year. I do support that. And the only other question that I have to go off of Deputy Mayor Green's conversation about dancing, what is, per our municipal code, what constitutes dancing?
I don't know that it's described in detail.
Great. So, because I haven't looked at it, but anecdotally in my mind, I have that dancing, it becomes dancing per our Vista municipal code if it's like 3 or more people dancing at the same time.
I believe the code just says dancing. It doesn't specify a number of people.
Okay.
I see attorney's big book coming out.
Double check it.
Because you could just have someone who off on their own, you know, and I'm not saying that, you know, yeah, I don't know who you would look at on this council that this might be applicable to, but on their own that might, you know, have dancing feet and move around a little bit. So I'm just curious to see if we define dancing and if there is a definition, you know, perhaps this is for a different council meeting where we look at that ordinance. But I want to make sure that it makes sense because I'm not even sure the last time that we updated that. So I was just curious about that. But other than that, if you do find an answer, I'll be right here. But I do support moving forward with the amendment of adding Area A of the bid district. Thanks.
So Councilmember Franklin, are you going to wait for dancing or did you want to go ahead?
No, I was just clarifying that the northern boundary will continue to be, of this item will continue to be Vista Village, and that the area north of Vista Village will not be included.
Yeah, so the zone A is just on the south side of Vista Village.
Okay, very good. Has there been a second? Very good.
The code did not reveal a definition immediately. We'll have to
Sorry.
So are we okay to pass this without a definition of dancing? Yeah. Yeah, okay.
It's like the Supreme Court said, we know when we see it.
Right, okay. Okay, so, oh wait, we have more people who want to talk. Councilmember Franklin, did you have more to say?
No, I do not.
Councilmember Contreras.
I just was going to answer the question that yes, I think we should move forward, even though we don't have a definition of what constitutes dancing.
Or how many
However, I
people.
will be waiting in anticipation to see what that definition is. Thanks.
Okay, so cast your votes, please. No, no? Okay. You're telling no hold. Okay. vote. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, that takes care of that one. We're on to D2, our next item. It's a preliminary review of a proposed general plan amendment and zone change at the southeast corner of South Melrose and Marigua. And we actually saw this a while ago, so we're going to see an update on this. So our Community Development Director, John Conley, is going to provide the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the return of a proposal for a zone change and general plan amendment. Location of the project is the southeast corner of South Melrose and Marigua, as shown on the left here on the slide. It comprises 3 legal parcels, about 5.3 acres in size. It includes the properties at 560 and 622 South Melrose, plus a vacant lot that's between the two. The general plan designation on the property is currently commercial office and medium low density residential. The corresponding zoning is office professional. and residential R1. This is an aerial view of the site. It includes a church that is being partially used and a single-family home back in the southeast corner of the site. So the first application came before the council on October 12th by the True Life Companies. It was a proposal to change the general plan and zoning to a residential use, to build a 38-unit detached single-family residential project on the site. After the discussion, the council provided feedback for the applicant that additional street parking was required, as well as a recommended meeting with the neighborhood group along Marigua and behind the project to discuss the concerns that were expressed at the meeting. The True Life Companies held a meeting in November with the neighborhood group, and following that submitted a revised proposal for 34 detached single-family lots, which is before you tonight for discussion. It includes some additional guest parking and some additional amenities, and the applicant is here to provide a little more detailed presentation for your information. The same general plan and zoning changes are requested. The general plan is requested to change to medium density, which allows a maximum density of 10 units to the acre. And the zoning is proposed to change to RM10, which is the corresponding zoning. Although it's a multifamily designation, they are proposing a single-family detached project. These are the general plan and zoning changes depicted graphically. Upper left-hand corner is the existing general plan, and the lower left is the proposed general plan for medium density. The same on the right. The existing zoning is in the upper right-hand corner, and the proposed zoning is in the lower right-hand corner for multifamily RM10. The applicant's revised proposal is shown here. The earlier proposal showed a fork arrangement with the roadway and some smaller lots. They've now just got one main roadway that's widened to accommodate some on-street parking and additional amenities, and they've reduced their unit count. And as I mentioned, they'll provide more detail in their presentation following mine. So these types of requests are completely at the discretion of the council with a recommendation by the Planning Commission. That's the formal process they'll have to go through if they file a formal application. We bring all the requests for general plan and zone changes before the council at the time of initial submittal so that you have a chance to provide the applicant some feedback. And so with that, staff's asking for you to provide feedback for the applicant. One note, we did receive a late letter that was not provided to the council from one resident on Marigua that opposed the land use change, but that's the only thing that you don't have before you tonight. And that completes my staff presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I'm going to do the speakers. I'll have the applicant first. Brent Little.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. My name is Brent Little, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the True Life Companies. Let me find my notes here. So as you'll recall, and Mr. Conley described, when we came before the council last time, we heard from the community and the council that we needed more outreach and needed to work with the community more on this project. And before I describe the outreach that we did, I want to take you back to the progression of changes that we've made over the last couple months. I have it. So you know where the project is. So this is the plan that we submitted, and as Mr. Conley called it, a forked plan. I think that's maybe a good thing, I don't know. But so it had two cul-de-sacs. The entrance to the project was closer to the intersection of Melrose and Marigua, and it was 38 units. So that was the plan that we submitted. And so what I wanted to show is this was the plan that we formulated after we met with the council and what we heard. And what this plan did is it raised the entry up Marigua. And what that did is that allowed for more queuing at the intersection. So that kind of relieved one of the issues potentially with residents coming out and queuing up Marigua to go straight or go left. What it also did is it lowered, by dropping the road down closer to Melrose, it allowed us to lower the wall on the project on Melrose quite significantly. And then the big change is that it provided parking on both sides of the street. So what this plan has is parking that way exceeds the city requirement and is almost, it is 5 cars per home. So we thought that was pretty significant. And again, that's well over the city requirement. So as I mentioned, after the council hearing, we met outside with a number of the residents that showed up at that last hearing and had a chance to talk with them a little bit. And they kindly agreed to meet with us and discuss our project and provide some input. So we made these changes and then we went and met with them. And after that meeting, we came up with this plan. And we spent about an hour and a half discussing the project, discussing the area, talking about what the impacts are and this project and what it meant. And what we ended up doing is we discussed a transition of densities. We looked at the larger area. So on the opposite side of Melrose, going up Breeze Hill, you have a lot of multifamily units. So we took that concept of migrating the density lower as you head towards the east, towards the Madrigal residence. And so that's why we pulled the 4 units out along the boundary there. We also included a dog park and a couple other little amenity spaces on the project. So we discussed all this at our meeting with the residents, but quite frankly, we didn't know that it would work. And so we went back and we spent a couple weeks with our engineers and planners studying the grading, because as you know, there's a little bit of grade on the property. And we had to know that we could really make this project work. And once we finally figured out that we could, then at that point, we felt like we need to get a broader section of the community involved. And so with that, we reached out to residents within a 1,000-foot radius and all the homes along Madrigal. And we set up a community meeting at the church that's on site to reveal this plan, discuss the changes that were made, answer their questions, provide receive any feedback they had on it. And lastly, we asked them to give us direct input and to vote on it. And so we provided everyone with a ballot like this that was an anonymous ballot. And we asked them, I prefer the proposed single-family project, this here, or I prefer the allowed use by the zoning. And with that, we tallied them up at the end, and we received 47 supporters, 1 opposed, and 4 people that filled it in blank. So we were obviously very pleased with that, and that's really the basis why we're back here tonight. And with that, I first want to thank all the people in the community that came out. It's an honor to have residents be so involved, and the amount of time they've spent just emailing us and discussing the project. Quite frankly, we wouldn't be here tonight if we didn't have those 47 supporters. So we're very grateful. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions you have and request that you support our project moving forward.
Thank you. And then I'll listen to other speakers, and then if we have any questions, if you'll stand by, and we'll call on you if we have questions. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation.
Sure.
The speakers are, we'll start with Gary Lukovich, followed by Wendy Lukovich.
Good evening. It's nice to be here, and thank you all. I think Mr. Little very accurately explained what happened. I think this should be a model of how things are done in the city when proposals come up for changing things, because the community got involved. Mr. Little and his associates were there to answer any questions we had. And if they follow through and know what they say they're going to do, I think we'll all be very happy. I will express one concern, though, that a number of people expressed to me that were at the meeting that could not be here tonight. And they don't want to see this. They like this plan and the change of zoning for this plan. If somehow the company fell apart, someone else came in to do something, we would hope it'd have to come back to the city council and start over again, because the agreement for the proposed zoning change was specific to this design. We worked really hard and they were very receptive, and the community wanted this. And this is a community that votes against everything typically. If you don't matter, well, a bird can't fly over without our permission. So we like this plan and we hope you'll like it. But with that condition that if it changes, it's got to go back to square one and start over again with the zoning changes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wendy Lukovich, followed by August Slavink.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for having us here. And I second what my husband just said. In addition to what he just commented on, I also want to indicate that there were a couple other concerns that I want to make sure the city knows. One being on Matterwell Drive, we want to make sure that there's a street that mirrors the street across the way where the Methodist church is. So we would like to have it exactly the same. And in addition to, we would like a 2-lane way if possible coming out of Matterwell. So for those people that are making a right, don't have to wait for the person in front, because now we're going to have more cars coming out of Matterwell. So mirroring the opposite as it is on Breeze Hill. In addition to that, I think to help with community members driving on Melrose going north, it would be helpful to have a transition in lane so we don't block any bikers, especially since last time we had a big discussion about being more aware of bikers and that whole backing up that happens on Melrose. So that's just another thing that I wanted to point out, and I hope that the city can help the True Life companies with that as well. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. August Slivnik, followed by Stephanie Jackal.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well today. I basically want to mirror what they all said already. The only thing my own concern is when you do a zoning change, it was brought to my attention when I was talking to Brett that you guys are actually making a special zoning permit for this. You're not using a regular one. So it wouldn't be high density housing, which could be then turned into an apartment complex and things like that. It'd be specifically for single residents or that kind of thing. Other than that, that's my only real fear, that it can be turned into, and at some point in time, if they fall through, not saying that they will, but if they do, that it turns into Breeze Hill. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great evening.
Thank you, sir. Stephanie Jackal. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi there. Good evening. When True Life Companies presented its residential project on Melrose and Marigua to the council on October 12th, you unanimously instructed the company to hold a community meeting and to revise the project to respond to community complaints about the project. Speaking on behalf of South Vista communities, I think True Life Companies did exactly that. A meeting was held on November 26th with some 50 residents attending, and it was a good meeting. The original project proposed 38 single-family houses in condominium zoning with only 14 guest parking spaces. The project looked very crowded and dense. The new layout has 34 houses and about 30 guest parking spaces. The layout has been greatly simplified. Wider streets will allow parking on both sides. A dog park and a tot lot and more open space are included. The entrance to the project has been moved east, farther away from Melrose, which was a concern of Madrigal residents. We appreciate True Life Companies listening to residents' concerns.
Thank you. That was our last speaker, so we will go back to the council. Deputy Mayor Green.
All right. First of all, I want to thank staff for coming up with this early design review process for us as a council. I think that this is awesome to be able to get the community involved. I was probably one of the guys who was toughest on this project when they came up because they hadn't talked to any residents. So Mr. Little engaging 52 residents within 1,000 feet, distance of your project, that is extremely impressive. And getting them to actually give you anonymous votes to get the information is fantastic. I do want to address some of the neighbors' concerns, and something that was my concern that I wrote down. If we approve this general plan amendment as a 10 unit per acre overlay and it's 5 acres, technically I'm approving 50 units on this particular site. Is our approval going to be specific to this 34 unit, outline, or can we put that stipulation on top of the approval that we give tonight, Mr. Conley?
So we are looking at a small lot zone amendment that would replace our condominium zoning that you referenced, where it would require them to build single-family detached units in accordance with the density that's allowed. Now, could the project get approved and they not build it and we're stuck with the zoning? Yes, but if we use the small lot zoning that we're envisioning, they wouldn't be able to do anything different than essentially what you see here. That still has to come forward to council and get approved, which we expect to happen before this project comes before you for formal approval. We've informed the applicant that, so that's our plan.
Okay, so this will be presented to us as R1 SFRs
Right.
without the condo zoning, but we have to approve the new size of the lots in order for this project to meet our guidelines.
Correct. We'll have to approve that zone. Now, assuming that doesn't happen, we have another alternative to use a development agreement that would revert back to the existing zoning if the project were not to be built. So we have some alternatives we can look at, and we'll bring them forward as a staff recommendation.
Okay, and just to let the community know too, I mean, if we did change this to a 10 units per acre, that's still not apartments like across the way on Breeze Hill. Not that we want to change this project at all, but that's definitely not a high density, shove them in there with no parking type of thing that you had to deal with. So that's great. I definitely do want to make sure that we stick with that. Somebody also spoke about with the restriping out of Madrigal to make a right-hand turn on Melrose. Is that something that we speak about now? Is that handled at the planning commission? Is that already a plan of the developer?
That would be something we present as part of the formal approval.
Okay.
And if the staff will have to evaluate it to make sure it works, but if so, we can condition the developer to do that.
Of course, yeah. And from a striping standpoint, I mean, you don't want to take up a bike lane. I mean, we got to make sure it still meets all safety precautions, but we've been really good with ability to stripe when new projects come in on our side of town here on the corner of Foothill and Vista Way. We restriped for a third left-hand turn lane, which eased up congestion tremendously. So it's been fantastic. I like the saying a bird can't fly over our community without our permission. That is true about that community. So that is fantastic. Let's see. One thing for this developer, I've been on this council since 2016, and this is actually the first time that I have had community members not only show up and support and kind of say that you did a great job, but also send me a lot of emails. I got more emails supporting your project than I got opposing your project. And in our business as council members, I think we can say that is fairly odd. So I love this. And when I look at the difference between what your project was and what it is, the first one definitely looks like, hey, we're making money. We're going to get the best out of this. And, if you approve this, we're excited to roll. The second project looks like, hey, we've spoken with your community and we know that this is a perfect fit for what you want to do. And inevitably as a council, that's our job, is to make sure that we make wise land use decisions for our surrounding constituents. So thank you so much for your work on this. Initially, I was not in support of this project at all. But now, given all the work that you've done and the feedback from the community, this is definitely something that I would support moving forward with the stipulations. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to the applicant, to city staff, and for all of my neighbors for coming to speak and for participating. at such a great capacity. I do want to say to our applicant, great job with the outreach. It seems like a more enjoyable experience for the applicant to like just lean into that, request that we have, that you do that outreach. So as you have embraced it, you've found a lot of success. So I want to commend you on that. It's really encouraging to see all the engagement. And I also like the simplified design. I know something I prioritize when I'm looking at new plans and opportunities in our community is how can we retain as much green space as possible? And with, just a few fewer homes, this has resulted in, I don't have the previous plans in front of me, but from what I remember, it looks like it has resulted in a little bit more green space, a little bit more soil that's been able to be retained. So I like to see that. But I do have a couple questions, about 3 questions. Maybe Mr. Conley can answer this one first. Can you explain to us the multifamily designation for this project, which has detached units? I know that Deputy Mayor Green's question was similar. We're both concerned about, especially sharing residents' concern about the change in density. But I noticed that during your presentation, you mentioned that this is a multifamily designation on detached units. So could you explain that to us a little bit more? Will the new potential zoning the city is going to be taking on be changing that, or please?
Yes, that's the answer to your question is yes. The zoning that we're considering would replace that. If we didn't adopt a new zone, the RM10 zone is the only zone that gets us to the density that would accommodate this type of development.
Okay, so hopefully in the future we have a specific zoning that's going to capture this specific project. But right now we're using the multifamily designation to accommodate that. Okay, and then would it be possible or appropriate for a dedicated right turn lane that Wendy suggested? I think that that's a great idea, and I'm not quite sure exactly how it would be illustrated to have kind of a middle lane or a left turning lane on Melrose. But any of those just restriping changes, I think I'm very supportive of, and I think those would be good suggestions to keep the traffic flowing.
Yeah, so we'll evaluate those as part of the application. I think the change on Marigua is probably fairly simple. Melrose might be a little more difficult.
Okay. And then the last question I have is, will the dog park be accessible to the public? So I know that from the map, it looks like it may be kind of tucked away. But I'm just wondering, if someone happens upon it, right, and they're walking through the neighborhood, right, are there like gates, right? Would someone get in trouble for using the dog park? I just wanted to know if it would be accessible.
So it's a community feature. So we don't intend on gating it, but it's controlled by the homeowners association. So it's probably just for residents.
Great, thank you. And that was all my questions for now. I'd love to hear from everyone else. Thank you.
Councilmember Franklin.
Well, I want to concur with my colleagues. Thanks for demonstrating what good outreach to the community is. It's really pretty easy to do, and including the community is one of the big reasons that we adopted the early design review process. I always like to let the community know that we're one of the communities who adopted a process where we have an opportunity at the beginning of a 1 to 2 year development project for residents to have input at the beginning, instead of in years past, the project would be 1.5 years or 2 years in development before the community would have first opportunity to give their thoughts, which really wasn't good for developers either, because they really needed to hear the community's will and input at the beginning of the project, not at the end. I like the idea of a development agreement, particularly because this is along an arterial roadway, and it is a significant rezone. For those reasons, taking a commercial use off of an arterial, I do think that the development agreement that honors the wishes of the residents who participate in this process makes a lot of sense and would allay their concerns about the project being sold and turning into something else. And you touched briefly on the idea of the HOA. This is one of the concerns I have about going to the small lot zoning is when people live on very small lots, which I think is a necessary part of the future of housing growth and development. But it is incredibly important that we have strong HOAs, because when the neighbors don't get along, or when one neighbor doesn't maintain their obligation to the others, they come to the city. And the HOA has certain civil tools that are available and actually a lot more useful to solve problems between neighbors. So I hope that from the development department staff point of view, I know that neighborhoods can vote to disband HOAs. I wish there was some way that we could make it a permanent covenant. I don't think there is. But if there's a way to strengthen that HOA so that it can't be easily disbanded, sometimes communities don't see the value of it until later. And I've had some specific experience with small lot neighborhoods where they really wish that they had an HOA to solve those problems. And so whatever can be done in that regard to strengthen the HOA, I think is very important. So thanks again for your good work in reaching out to the community. And thanks to all the community members who participated in the process.
Councilmember Contreras.
I also want to just state what has been stated. As far as the process goes, there was, that first meeting was a little bit brutal. You got a lot of honest feedback, and it looks like we've come out of that with a plan that actually really fosters community, because, not only do we have residents that live near this proposed project coming together and building community in that sense, but the actual plan itself is much more conducive to a community being built right here in this project versus the initial proposal, which was a little crowded and disjointed. I feel that there's a lot more flow with this community plan. In that, with subtracting 4 homes really has made a huge difference. So I do lend my support, and I do also, I'm curious to see what we can do as far as traffic flow, features like a dedicated right-hand turn lane and whatnot, see what we can accomplish on that front. But yeah, this looks great, and I'm excited to see it built up. Thanks.
So thank you. That's all of our speakers. And I agree with all of my colleagues here. Thank you for going to the community and working it out with them. And thank the community for working with the developer. It makes a huge difference. That's how it should be. So build it for us. Okay, so I guess that's it, huh? Thank you. Okay, then we move on to our next thing, D3, which is appointments of officials to boards and committees. This item is the annual appointment of city council members to the boards and committees of outside agencies. I've submitted a memo and master appointments list for your consideration, and mostly they're the same as they were last year, pretty much. So I would need a motion to approve those. Oh, Deputy Mayor Green.
I would move to approve the mayor's appointments as presented.
I second.
Councilmember Melendez. Okay, I have a motion and a second, and seeing no further discussion, we'll cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously, and that takes us to item D4, which is the appointment of a deputy mayor. The deputy mayor appointment is for a one-year term. I always need a deputy mayor so that when things that I can't do, that I need somebody that can back me up, and sometimes it's last minute. But it's important for the deputy mayor to be able to back me up sometimes, because just whatever happens, sometimes things happen where you can't be there. So, okay, Deputy Mayor Green.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I just want to thank my colleagues for letting me be deputy mayor for the last year. It's been super cool. It was a COVID year, so I didn't get to do as much deputy mayor stuff as I would like, but I did have a whole lot of fun being deputy mayor and representing the city and kind of filling in for the mayor when she wasn't there. Basically what it is when the mayor can't show up, deputy mayor gets to show up and do all the deputy mayor stuff and mayor stuff. So our mayor is very involved and there's not a whole lot of slack to pick up, but I definitely appreciate my colleagues. As far as who's going to be deputy mayor next year, I'm looking forward to hearing what my colleagues think, obviously what my mayor thinks. I think that this position is a really awesome position to have. If I had to nominate, I know that it could be both Councilmember Franklin and Councilmember Contreras last year on the council. I believe our mayor, and I haven't heard who you would like, but you would probably appoint John Franklin if I had to guess who you would appoint. But I would like to hear from my council members to kind of figure out what they would like, and I will support whatever the final appointment is. Thank you.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to say thank you to current Deputy Mayor Joe Green for doing a really good job. It's an important role because you get to be out in the community a lot and you get to relay a lot of information to the public that can be helpful to them, and you get to act as an in-between for all the other duties that the mayor may not be able to accomplish. So I think it's a really important responsibility, and it shows, a lot of honor of the person who is appointed as deputy mayor, because for me, it indicates that they're very active in the community. They want to be present and they want to take on more responsibility. So I would love to recommend my friend, Councilmember Contreras. I think that she has done an incredible job these past 3 years, 3.5 years, and I would love to see her be appointed as our new deputy mayor and give her that opportunity, that experience. She's very hardworking, very diligent council member that is very present in the community in general. And I think that it would really serve her experience and serve the position to act as deputy mayor. So I'm obviously supportive of anyone being deputy mayor, because whoever does it will take on that role and just be a positive person to step in for the mayor when it is needed. But I would like to just put Karina's name out there, Councilmember Contreras' name out there, because I think that she would do an excellent job.
I think she would do an excellent job, but I think I would nominate Councilmember Franklin. I just would like somebody that's got a little more experience that right at this point. Councilmember Contreras can do it at maybe a later date, but I would just, I would nominate for Councilmember Franklin to do that at this point, for this last year, for my last year. So anyway, so what do I got here? Okay, so who's next? Councilmember Franklin.
I just wanted to join in also commending Deputy Mayor Joe Green. He's done a phenomenal job this past year, and I wanted to say a word of appreciation for the great work he's done as Deputy Mayor.
He has done a great job of that. Thank you. I appreciate all that you've filled in for me. Thank you. Councilmember Contreras.
I also want to commend our Deputy Mayor Green. I think he embodies a lot of what people want to see as leadership and their representatives. And I'm okay with not being deputy mayor. I will say that I am a little superstitious, and our previous deputy mayors have not made it past their reelection. So the last two. So you know what? I gladly will pass on deputy mayor. Thank you.
I was deputy mayor a couple of times and I made it. Councilmember Green.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mayor Green.
Yeah, that's
Deputy
right.
Mayor Green.
That's right. Deputy Mayor Green for another couple minutes here. No, I appreciate all my colleagues. I just wanted to hear from everybody. I think Karina will be a fantastic deputy mayor, and I anticipate she will probably be deputy mayor in 2023. But knowing that Madam Mayor would like her final year, Mr. Franklin, to be the deputy mayor, I would second that nomination, or rather make the motion, I guess, for, is it actually making the motion? You made the motion?
I think I did.
I will second your motion then, Madam Mayor, for your deputy mayor to be council member and future deputy mayor, John Franklin.
Okay, Councilmember Melendez, back down at the other end.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the discussion. It's my first time, really seeing how the process works, and I look forward to seeing my good friend and colleague, Councilmember Contreras, act as deputy mayor in the future. And I'm happy to go to a vote. Thanks.
And Katie, you could be a deputy mayor in the future also. Okay, deputy mayor again.
Nah, I think I'm good. We're straight. Thank you. Let's vote.
Okay, please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, guys. The next thing is the next item is our city council goals update. Our economic development director, Kevin Ham, is going to provide the report. Kevin Ham, might be your swan song.
I think it is.
He's retiring soon. Sadly. Well, happily for you, sadly for us.
Well, I will miss you all, that's for sure. So Kevin Ham, for a little bit longer, Director of Economic Development for the City of Vista. It's my pleasure to present the item this evening, which is the goals for the council. So as you may remember, these goals, we come back every 6 months to provide you with an update. The last time we did that was in June of 2021. These goals were set in March of 2020. I want to make note that you soon will be updating these goals on March 1st, 2022. And we've also included COVID-19 impact goals in this document as well. So there are many new goals related to that as well. The goals consist of continuing fiscal responsibility, continue to improve the flow of traffic, reduce congestion, and improve our roads and sidewalks, continue to improve the image of our city. Again, my favorite, economic development. Number 5, public safety, and then 6, parks and recreation. We have several categories. We have high priority goals, medium priority goals, and low priority goals. With regard to goal number 1, which is fiscal responsibility, the City Council increased the city's emergency reserves to the 35% goal, utilizing fiscal year 2020-2021 year-end fund balance funds. With regard to goal 2, continue to improve the flow of traffic, reduce congestion, and improve roads and sidewalks. The traffic signal interconnect upgrade project has been completed. It allows for more flexibility in signal timing and efficient traffic signal management. We have several updates on goal 3, which is to continue to improve the image of the city. With regard to item A1 under this category, the city's contract with Exodus, which provides social work services, was extended by 1 year with the addition of a housing navigator. The next goal under goal 3, which is to continue to improve the image of our city, A6, the downtown daytime outreach program was removed from the homeless plan based on the recommendation of the social worker. Goal 3 again, A4, the City Council received an update from our internal homeless group in September of this year. The cross-departmental group developed 2 new pieces of collateral. They included a guide informing the public about how much the city has invested to support people experiencing homelessness, and a guide for local businesses on how to address people experiencing homelessness was developed and distributed. Goal 3A8, the city's contract with Alliance for Regional Solutions was extended for a 1-year term to secure up to 10 shelter beds. Goal 3 again, A8, in October 2021, the council directed staff to develop a request for proposal to pursue an emergency shelter for individuals experiencing homelessness. The RFP will be reviewed by the City Council in January 2022. Goal 3C4, the city attorney has filed a complaint for receivership and civil public nuisance for an ongoing nuisance case. This has resulted in the owner initiating improvements to the property. Additionally, a deputy city attorney has been hired here at the city. They will also serve in the city prosecutor role, and they will assist with public nuisance issues. Goal 4, economic development. This is item C2. A town site active transportation plan is in final design. Economic development, again, continue to attract revenue generating businesses and other businesses to the city. Since the last update, the city has seen the expansion of downtown businesses in addition to ones in the business park. New businesses include Coomber, who you heard from tonight, setting up in our downtown. Johnstone Supply, not Johnstone that used to be with the city, but Johnstone, the company, handles ice cream in the community, and several more. Economic development, B3, a lot of work took place on COVID-19, especially in economic development. The city is implementing 12 programs that we developed with ARPA funding. These include the COVID-19 Small Business Grant Program, a cybersecurity training program, an entrepreneurial and mid-stage company training program, an internship program, the Vista is Open program, and several others. Public safety, item F2, which is continue crime-free multi-housing. A total of 6 properties have been mandated into the crime-free multi-housing program. 4 have made improvements and are working on other requirements. 1 property has met all the requirements and has been released from the mandate, and the other is working on physical improvements. Parks and Recreation. This goal is E3. The Gloria McClellan Adult Activity and Resource Center reopened in September of this year. Parks and Recreation, this would be B1. Bub Williamson Park will reopen to the public in February 2020, but that may be a little bit longer.
2022.
I'm sorry, 2022. Oh, sorry about that. Parks and Recreation, again, continuing to improve parks and facilities. Paula Vista Park. In September of this year, you may have remembered that you officially named Paula Vista Park, Paula Vista Park. Did I say 2020 again? Construction is underway and anticipated to be completed by the end of 2022. Parks and Recreation, continue improving parks and facilities, items 5 and 9. The Moonlight Amphitheater overflow parking has been improved and additional restrooms were added to the Moonlight Amphitheater. This concludes my presentation. Myself, city manager, and the rest of the staff are available for any questions.
Do I have any questions? Councilmember Franklin, looks like you're pushing your button.
I just wanted to note all of the work of all of our staff and all of the time that all of us on the council have spent addressing the subject of homelessness, both addressing the causes and symptoms thereof. And I want to express my desire and for us to be thinking about elevating that to be amongst our very top goals with amongst our, what do we have, 8 goals now? We've consolidated to 6?
5, yes.
So I'd like to see that outlined as a goal all by itself, but I'll bring that back up when we readdress. But I think clearly the time that we've devoted, both staff and council, to that subject shows the community the extent to which we prioritize it as probably the top issue facing our community. And so I just wanted to point that out and appreciate all the good work from all of our staff on that.
Well, seeing anything else, I just want to thank heaven for all the years. I don't even remember a time when you weren't here. You've been here forever. So, and all the leadership, and not just in Vista, but throughout the county, throughout the state. Actually, you've leadership and economic development, the with the mayors of all of our cities. You worked together with us on Innovate 78 and getting that thing rolling several years. How long ago was that? 4 or 5 years ago? Maybe
About
longer.
7 years ago. when
7
we
years ago,
started out.
yeah. So all of that, and so just all you've done working with the business in the business park and done the meet and greets out there, and are just going to helping retain the businesses and all the things you've done with us. I just appreciate all of that. I just wanted to thank you for all the time and all that you've done for our community. You've made Vista a better place all the time you've been here. So I think all of a sudden I'm all lit up here. Councilor Franklin, are you still on there from before?
As long as I'm still recognized, I just will second that. You have always been phenomenal to reach out to businesses, both proactively and in response to inquiries that we've received. You've always been great with research to help us accommodate the needs of businesses, and you have very big shoes to fill. We appreciate the fact that you're going to continue to fill them somewhat part-time until we find a permanent replacement, but certainly your shoes are very big, and we'll look forward to your mentoring someone who can do the job equally as well as you have for so many years.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you so much, Kevin Ham, for giving us this presentation, and to all of our city staff who just keep us on track and keep everything moving on this ship that is Vista, so that we can just sail into clear waters and accomplish our goals. So I'm really excited that we're going to be venturing into creating new goals. But looking back on our 2020, 2022 goals, I just want to say I'm really also very happy about the success that we have had in creating and implementing a strategic plan to address homelessness. That for me is one of my top goals personally, and as a representative, and seeing how many efforts have been made to accomplish that city goal is really encouraging to me. I also wanted to make a suggestion about a future workshop. So workshops has been one of the topics of our council, and various workshops can be beneficial to the community for engagement and education. And I know many residents have asked for more workshops and opportunities regarding the budget. And reflecting on the goal 1 of fiscal responsibility and our goal to build an emergency reserve at 35%, I'm not sure what that goal will look like come March 2022. However, I think it would be really beneficial to do a community workshop on the reserve. Obviously, the whole budget, could have a workshop on it, but specifically the reserve, I've had multiple questions about it. I'm not the most knowledgeable person about the reserve or our entire budget. I know our city staff has been an incredible help to me in guiding me and assisting me in reading the documents that have been made available to me. So I would highly suggest a workshop on our reserve, just so that the citizens are empowered to know not only is their city, investing into our future and our security, but they understand a little bit more about why that is, and how they can rest assured and help be part of the process and receive that information, and maybe decide what they want to do in the future. So that would be kind of my takeaway from this is, as we pursue our future goals, if we could do some of those workshops, I think it would be really beneficial. But other than that, I just really appreciate the report and all the effort the staff has made in 2020 to 2022 to get us here. And good luck on your new venture and your retirement and all the projects and goals that you have set for yourself in the future. I hope that you are just safe and happy and enjoy. So thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Am I still deputy mayor for the whole meeting?
Oh,
I am, according to Kathy Valdez. That's a city clerk forever. So she knows exactly what a deputy mayor is. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate that. I'm going to relish this title for another I don't know, 4 hours and 7 minutes. Number one, Kevin, this is your ride off into the sunset presentation, my man. And I just want to thank you as not only a council member, but as a Vista resident. I watched all these cities kind of blow past us, whether it was because our hands were tied because of legal issues within the city or, whatever it was from a development standpoint and from a restaurant standpoint. I used to have to drive to San Marcos to Restaurant Row, or I'd have to drive down to Carlsbad if I wanted to have a good meal. And since you've been here, you've been able to attract amazing businesses, and more are coming in because of the groundwork that you laid as our economic development director. As we go over this list of our city goals, I just want to point out goal number 1, 2, and 3, which 1 is the fiscal responsibility, 3 is continue to improve the image of our city, and 4 is economic development. And the reason we've been able to hit 3 of those 6 goals is because of your hard work, sir, and also all of our staff. But you are really our boots on the ground. I remember before I was elected, you got to be my sidekick, or I got to be your sidekick rather, when we got to go visit all the local businesses that were in the business park and ask them what their needs were, and just hearing the authenticity and really your genuine care for these businesses and how they can be successful was encouraging to me and inspiring to me to want to become a leader within my city. So I really appreciate everything you brought. I've appreciated the change that you've made to the city, and knowing that businesses like Coomber Wineries invest their money in Vista because they hear we're the hot town to be in, and that if you invest in Vista, you're going to be successful. It wasn't always like that, Kevin Ham, and you're a big part of that reason. So for me and my whole council, and I think every citizen in the city of Vista, you've made a tremendous impact, and you'll be able to drive through this town for decades and decades to come and know that, your work is imprinted on the city of Vista. So I just want to give you a big thank you, man, and thanks for helping us hit our goals. Greatly appreciate it, Kevin Ham.
Councilmember Contreras.
All right, I want to tell you thank you too, Kevin Ham. It's been fantastic getting to work with you. I want to highlight, some of the great planning that we did in our economic development strategy. I want to highlight, when we were going through the pandemic, some of the kind of more innovative approach that you really took, whether it was helping businesses figure out what their pivot was going to be, right? So they can continue to stay afloat and be an integral part of our economic engine here in the city of Vista. So I really do thank you for everything that you've done for our city. And also, for those who don't know, Kevin Ham is excellent at dodgeball, even though we haven't been able to have a dodgeball tournament. It's usually Connolly versus the Ham, I would say, for MVP. So we didn't get to witness that. But maybe there'll be one more. Who knows? For the city goals, I just really want to thank all my coworkers and all my my colleagues here. We've done a tremendous job to really develop the city and aim towards community well-being. One of the things that came out of our economic document here, our strategy for the next 5 years, is saying, hey, listen, you know what, maybe before it wasn't in the wheelhouse or in the purview of a city to really look at youth and youth development and mentorship, but we're in the 21st century, and in order to move forward with all of our goals, we need to ensure that we are investing in our youth, because in Vista, you don't have to wait to be great. We have a lot of students that come with so many skills, and a lot of students that are ready to develop their skills. So, part of our economic development that we've actually been able to put into action is providing funding from the city level for internships, for entrepreneurship, right? I really look forward to seeing those newer programs develop and continue to move our community into a place of more well-being. And I know that you have been instrumental, Mr. Ham, in bringing that to fruition as well. I won't get into it too much because I want to save it for our next workshop. But, Paseo Santa Fe, it looks great. And there are, now that we've kind of come to the completion of that corridor, there are a lot of other places that we could focus our attention. I think a natural fit to continue the progress that we've had along Paseo Santa Fe would be the North Santa Fe corridor. It is already rich with a combination of residential and commercial, and it is a very important transit corridor. So that's something that I would like to have a full conversation at the next time that we discuss our city goals, because I do see that as a prime place for some more investment that will bring a huge return on investment and dividends to our community. But I will save the rest of it for a different time. Thank you so much, everyone. I just am really proud and honored to be a part of this process and creating the pathway for our city and our residents to work hand in hand to bring about the type of community that we all want, which is one that is litter-free, that is beautiful, that has plants for pollinators and affordable housing and more programs for our youth. Because if there's one thing that we know, it's everybody's talking about different aspects of crime that have increased, and we cannot address that if we do not address the discrepancies and the inequities in our community. And I'm really proud of this council for taking hold of the idea that equity is important. So I look forward to continuing that mission here at the City Council. Thank you.
City Manager, did you want to say something?
Sure. Love to say something about Kevin. I echo what all of you said, and it's been a pleasure to work with Kevin this past 21 years. Kevin is impressive in a lot of ways, and I think all of you know that. And I think he's got the same enthusiasm as he did 21 years ago, which is pretty surprising. And he's done a great job for the city, not only the city, but in the region as well as the state level. Kevin's been very involved in CalEd at the state level. Kevin's been involved in the region in Innovate 78 and for the city with the craft breweries, with the business park, being the business ombudsman, has done a really tremendous job of bringing Vista up. And I just want to say thank you to Kevin personally. I think I speak for all the management group that's here and the back, as well as Daryl and Kathy and Claire, that we want to wish Kevin the best in retirement. It's not goodbye, but it's good luck. And as he pursues his next conquest. So good luck, Kevin.
But we do have something for him.
Mayor, may I say a few words?
Not yet.
Andrea's coming up with the camera. Do you guys want to go in front of the day? Yeah, because the chair and the monitor.
Since I kept the seat warm, I'll sit here again. And I See my friends behind me, I'll watch Mr. Johnson's eyes. But it's been a great 21 years, and I hope that I've kept the same enthusiasm. What's really important, though, is that you all have been very supportive. And if it wasn't for your support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So I want to say thank you. Specifically to Mr. Johnson, thank you for your support, your intellect, your creativity, your openness has been very helpful in making sure that the city is where we are. And so I want to thank you for that. For the entire rest of the city management team, I couldn't do what I do without their openness, teamwork, participation. And so I always try to say that, you know, sometimes I'm the communicator, the translator, but they're doing a lot of the hard work. And I think it's important to recognize them. I appreciate their friendship and their support and their teamwork. And I think that this city is the best managed in the state and has the best management team. And so I just want to say thank you for all your support from the council, city manager, and staff level. It's been a great time, and I'm sure you'll see me around still.
Okay, but now we have to move on. Then our next item, D6, is our final discussion item, fiscal year 21-22 first quarter financial report, and Finance Director Mike Sylvia will provide the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Tough to follow that, but I'll make the attempt. The first fiscal year 21-22 first quarter report provides a summary and comparison of general fund budget to actual results. The report includes proposed operating and capital budget adjustments for the first quarter. General fund revenues and expenditures are consistent with budgetary expectations for the first quarter. However, I did want to point out the current year revenue is significantly higher than last year, a little over $5 million. That's due in large part to the Moonlight operating, which it didn't do last year. That was a couple million, as well as additional grant revenues that we received and higher sales tax collections. That being said, there are still significant amounts of cash receipts that aren't received evenly throughout the year. So we wouldn't expect to be at 25% of revenues at this time. We are at about 13% revenues and a little over 19% for expenditures as of September 30th. Both of those are within budgetary constraints or norms. On the expenditures are in line with prior year trends. There are 14 budget adjustments requested, and these are explained in detail in Exhibit 2 on pages 9 through 11 of the agenda report. They're inclusive of the 3 items that were funded by the state, which were facilitated by Assembly Member Horvath, and she's already detailed them quite a bit, but just to recap, the Bringle Terrace Well project at $600K, a Civic Center solar project at $3.5 million, and the Fire Station 3 replacement at $5 million. Outside of the general fund, the largest impact is funding for a $100,000 stormwater retrofit project. Half of the funding for that would come from the stormwater fund and the other half from the California mandated trash cleanup fund. In addition to these items, there are 3 personnel-related items that I wanted to detail. The first one is the performance review and salary adjustment for the city manager. Given that the position of city manager is a local agency executive per California Government Code Section 54953, subsection C3, an oral report is required to be read into the record as follows. On October 25th, 2011, the City Council approved a city manager employment agreement with Patrick Johnson. The employment agreement sets forth provisions for employment, including compensation. Since 2011, City Manager Johnson has not received a merit increase for his performance. City Manager Johnson has received base salary increases when provided across the board to management and confidential employees. On November 9th, 2021, the City Council received a third-party performance evaluation for City Manager Johnson. Based on the favorable evaluation, the City Council now recommends a 7.2% base salary increase, resulting in an annual salary of $280,373. The First Amendment to the employment agreement is attached as Exhibit 10. The second personnel item, we've got 10 recommended personnel changes included in the report. The first one is the addition of one position in the city manager's office, which is the Climate Action Plan Program Administrator. Second is addition of 2 park ranger positions and reclassification of 2 other positions within the Recreation and Community Services Department. The third item is reclassification of 2 positions, which are associate engineer and assistant engineer, to capital projects manager and traffic systems operations specialist, respectively, within the engineering department. The next item is reclassification of 1 position within the human resources department, that of the risk and safety analyst. There is also recommended salary adjustments to 3 classifications within the engineering series in the engineering department. Exhibit 12 provides detailed descriptions of these recommendations on pages 28 through 40 of the agenda report. And Exhibit 13 is the authorizing City Council resolution, which are pages 41 and 42, along with the citywide classification and compensation index showing these recommendations. Lastly, and I guess it was a sort of a quick goodbye for Mr. Ham, staff recommends City Council approval of a resolution certifying an emergency necessity to bring back the current Economic Development Director as a retired annuitant. Staff is currently recruiting for an Economic Development Director and expects to fill the position in early 2022. However, a number of projects are ongoing and will require the incumbent's assistance to move them forward. The resolution and retired annuitant agreement are included as Exhibit 14, which are pages 43 through 46 of the report. So given this, the recommendation is to receive and file the fiscal year 21-22 first quarter financial report and adopt 4 resolutions. The first amends the operating budgets for fiscal years 21-22 and 22-23, as well as the capital budgets for fiscal years 2021 and 21-22. The second resolution provides for the approval of the First Amendment to the City Manager Employment Agreement between the City of Vista and Patrick Johnson. The third one authorizes amendment to the citywide classification and compensation index and repeals the provisions of any resolutions in conflict herewith. And the last one certifies the necessity of temporarily appointing a CalPERS retiree pursuant to the California Government Code. And with that, staff is available for questions.
I don't have any speakers. Deputy Mayor, you're up.
I have no questions for you other than just a statement. Job well done, my friend. Love that we're doing great. Looks like we're making more money than we thought we were going to, and I'm excited to be able to do more for our city. With that, I would move that we accept and approve all 5 of these recommendations and resolutions as listed in the agenda report.
Councilmember Franklin.
I'd second that.
Okay, so seeing no other discussion, I would ask you for your vote. That motion passes unanimously. That brings us to our oral communications. Steve McLean.
Just heard, I'm Steve McLean. This is for the people here to the left because there was here when I wanted to talk about what I'm going to address. You, best of luck to you new people, and I hope you got your second. You can't imagine how much I respect what you guys do. For a decade, I worked behind a corporation of maybe 70, 80 people that was family owned for about 80 years. And what I did behind the scenes really ran the company without them even knowing it. And I know that what you 3 people did especially helped me like 7 years ago take on a big industry here in Vista and accomplish change with them, then, which they would not admit to, but a year later, it was probably saving the city $10,000 to $20,000 a year not to have that going on. So I know it was very much like what I did. Whatever you people did, it was wonderful. If people will never know about it, was never written down, but you helped me get 8 people, including the head of public works, an attorney from the city attorney's office representative, 3 people from the head of Aztec Corporation, and 2 of the managers of public works. But again, it was completely denied at the time, but a year later, 80% of the things that were done were accomplished for the people of Vista, and it's thanks to you 3 people especially. Now, real quick, I know my time's going to run out. I didn't know I could fill out 2 cards, so I should be able to consume as much time as I must consume, right? Thank you, Joe. I thought that was a good political joke. Anyway, what you were talking about the noise, and I think, Mr. Piper, they gave you the chance to amend and put special things in there. This argument about, oh, well, the vacuum cleaner's 80 decibels or whatever, and measured from the property line is absurd. It's going to cause more problems than you could ever imagine doing what everybody else has done. The fact is, the noise source should be posted how many decibels at how many feet away, period. I mean, that does away with so many of the confusing, and how about the 8 different violations or 6 violations? You know, for Pete's sakes, if you had that simple decibel described, and I'll give you a simple example that'll show you why it's so ludicrous. You could be sitting there on the property line, have the amplifier 10 yards away, and go, well, that's 60 decibels. Oh, I guess we could.
Your time is up. I hate to tell you, but your time is up because you're on a roll there.
But can I just finish that one point, Miss Mayor?
No, you can't.
You let lady go.
Can't.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And I
You're
didn't get around to being able to thank you too for what you guys did.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Okay, that takes us to our remarks, actually. And so, actually, I'll go first. I was going to just, I wanted to tell you that at Sandag last week was an important meeting on the new regional plan. I want to let you know that I voted no, which will make some people very unhappy, but I want you to know that in the week and a half before the meeting, I received over 5,000 emails. They came in, they messed up my whole email system, and I couldn't get any of my finally I ended up just, I started answering them, and then there were so many I couldn't answer them, so then I just deleted them. But anyway, but the problem was 95% of them were opposed to this plan, and the reason mostly they're opposed is because it was on the vehicle miles traveled charge that's in there, which is it's 4.3 cents per mile driven, and it will be 2 cents local and 2.3 cents of state. That would be for every mile that you traveled. And a lot of the complaints were because people that were landscapers that can never get on mass transit, or people and that drive all day, and people that are construction people, and soccer moms and moms that have kids that they take to school in the morning, and they pick them up, and then they take them to the dentist, or you take them to soccer, or they take them to the gymnastics, and they said we just can't do it, and so that was part of it. And also in that initiative or that program, there are 3 sales tax measures, 2 of which are one is put on by MTS, which is this the San Diego transit system, but 2 of them would be North County, and each one was be 1/2 cent. So there'd be 2 sales tax measures that they would put on the ballot that would have to pass. And that also, it was included in this, also were managed lanes on the 78. And so in the future, it would be one lane that would not be managed, an HOV lane, which in a few years will go from 2 to 3 people in an HOV car that, they wouldn't have to pay. And the other lane was a managed lane that you paid to use. So there's no widening of the 78. It would just be changing the lanes to 2 of the lanes to be managed lanes, which is not good. And so, and with these taxes, the vehicle miles traveled and the sales tax measures, It's requiring 90% of the people who drive the cars to subsidize the 10% of the people who ride transit, which I didn't feel was fair. I didn't think was right. And most of these people, I think people that drive cars didn't pay attention to this whole measure, this whole plan, because they think it was a transit plan, which a lot of it's very transit heavy. But I think it's because they thought that they drive cars, so it's a transit plan. It doesn't going to affect me. They don't know how much it was going to affect them. It's going to change everyone's life. Actually, how you do your driving and get around places. And then there was one thing that there were eight cities that voted against it at the end of, but we were outvoted by the people that passed it. So it did pass. But they did say they were going to consider looking at the federal infrastructure, the recent bill that passed the federal government for the infrastructure. They're going to look and see if they can find some extra money in there so that they didn't have to, that they could subsidize that instead of the vehicle miles traveled. But they said they didn't, that right now they don't see that. So as the plan passed, it has all of those measures in there. So I just wanted to let you know that I voted no, and that's why I voted no. That was kind of a long explanation, sorry. But anyway, I wanted you to know why I did that. So then my other things I have. So I'll change to a positive subject here. Jingle Terrace Park holiday lights drive-through is still going on at Jingle Terrace Park through December 23rd. I think they didn't do it today because it rained, and I think maybe tomorrow. But they have to go through there. They have a tunnel of lights. It's really amazing. And you can, the details are online at vistarecreation.org/Jingle Terrace Park. So check that out and take your kids, and then also take, they have a food drive at the end. You don't have to do it, but they'll accept food for the food bank, and also gifts for HMLA, our adopted Marine unit, that they're toys for the kids and the families there. And so the second thing is we have exciting news. The city has been awarded just over $1 million in grant funding to develop a new park space at the intersection of Avenida de Benito Juarez and Avenida de la Plaza. And Vista is one of 112 community park projects throughout California selected to expand outdoor opportunities in underserved communities. And we were one of only 5 jurisdictions in San Diego County to receive the funding, and the only one in North County. So it's pretty exciting to get over $1 million for a new park space. So that's pretty exciting. So that's my news. And so with that, I'm going to start it down. I'll start with the old deputy mayor.
It's my understanding until midnight tonight, Madam Mayor, I'm still the deputy mayor, but I appreciate your concern. I'm just joking. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Residents, I appreciate you guys showing up, being engaged with the process. I see a lot of familiar faces here, whether we agree or not. I just love hearing your perspectives because I think they help form the shape of the city. I also, not only do I think that we have the best managed city in the state, but I think we have the best governed city in the state. The diversity up here and the differing of opinions really helps balance out our city and make sure that we're accessing the needs of all of our residents. And I think that's a huge thing. I also loved what Councilmember Contreras said earlier, and I wrote it down. You don't have to wait to be great. You don't have to wait to be great. And I don't think that has to just be for the youth. I think it could be for any Vistan that wants to be great. We're here to help you. We're here to facilitate. And as far as your city council in the city of Vista, we want all Vistans to be great. And you don't have to wait. And let's keep working on our youth to be great. I thought that was a great saying. Lastly is for my man, I'm going to butcher your last name, but Kuna Muthasamy is in charge of public works. And for those of you who saw the storm that came in and the mud on all of our roads and all the trees down and the branches down, we have an amazing public works crew that Kuna heads up and handles all the logistics, and he is that guy who's in the back that isn't getting the high fives, but he's definitely coordinating the attack on this storm. And all of our roads are still great. We haven't had any huge major issues that I've been aware of. So Kuna and Public Works, thank you. You guys don't get the props you deserve regularly, and with this storm and your guys' performance, it was really fantastic. So thumbs up to you and your Public Works crew. And it's Taco Tuesday. In case you did not know, I got it right here for everybody. Taco Tuesday. Have a great night.
And our new deputy mayor, Franklin.
Well, thank you very much to my colleagues for granting me that honor for the coming year. It's been a good year this year, and I look forward to another good year working with all of you. And I wish all of you Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Councilmember Contreras.
I want to thank all my coworkers, to, it's been hard with COVID and it continues to change. And we always have a moving target. Someone keeps moving the goalposts, and here we are. We're still getting business done and we're still interacting with the community. So I just want to thank everybody who's been a part of that and will continue to be a part of that. And I want to thank everybody for coming and speaking. I want to thank Mr. McLean. I actually ran into you when I was doing my trash pickup, and he was doing some free weeding for the city. And I thought that was fantastic. So, I might run into you again. I think if it doesn't rain, we're still going to have our trash pickup tomorrow. It's probably going to be cold, but we meet up between 9 and 9:15 at Luz Duran Park, and we get back to the park between somewhere around 11 to 11:30. Outside of that, I just want to wish everybody some happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, and a fantastic New Year. And we'll all see you next year as a council.
Next year, yeah. Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have too much to add. Just want to ask everyone to please drive safely. It's crazy out there. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year.
The old deputy mayor wants to say.
One last thing. As you guys know, the state of California, as of tomorrow, indoors, everybody has to wear masks indoors. And I just wanted to encourage everybody that we're going to be following the state mask mandate. And have a cool mask. Mine says treat people with kindness. So feel free to, yeah, it's the right side, Madam Mayor. So anyways, feel free to have a mask that expresses you a little bit and make sure that you keep your people safe inside. And we will be abiding by the mask mandate throughout the city because it is a state mandate that we must abide by.
Humbug. Oh, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to let everybody know that city facilities, including the Civic Center, will be closed after the Christmas holiday from December 27th through 31st. However, public safety services as well as public works will still be operating in the city to take care of any issues that may occur. And then next week, we will post Christmas tree recycling information on our website as well as social media platforms on where people can take their trees and recycle them properly. And I do want to echo what Deputy Mayor Joe Green said regarding Kuna, Mutusami, and Public Works. They did a great job, and not only today, but preparing for the rain that we got today. And I know between 12 and about 1:15, that atmospheric river seemed to come over Vista pretty good, and they did a great job unplugging some of the hard-hit areas. So thank you very much, and happy holidays to everybody.
How about our city attorney, Daryl Piper?
Thank you very much, Mayor. I would like to reflect on the fact that we are a very annually oriented city, and therefore, Deputy Mayor Green, until the ball over Times Square drops Pacific time, you remain the deputy mayor. And I knew you would, and I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Happy Holidays.
That was the answer.
Our city clerk, Kathy Valdez.
I'd just like to wish everyone happy holidays as well. It's been a great year, and I look forward to the next.
How about Claire down there? Same there. Okay, so with that, it is 8:26, and happy holidays, and we are adjourned.